Mic check. Mic check. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. You might be surprised to know that. I was ready to go on time. Camera wasn't working. So had to figure out how to make the camera work. All of our filters and everything are gone now. So we got kind of this grayscale thing happening today, and it's just going to happen. That's what it's going to look like today. It's going to look a little gloomy. Morning, Jen.
Good morning. I think Nick in the Discord had a valid troubleshooting thing we might want to try.
Which was?
Have we tried unplugging you and plugging you back in?
No, I keep my plug in at all times. It's always in there.
I think that's a valid thought to possibly try.
No, you never want to take the plug out. You leave it in.
All right. Well.
All right. Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was fine.
Oh, there's a little hesitation there. Do you want to talk about
it? I was just thinking.
You want to tell us about any dates or anything?
No dates. We've been over this. I put your species in timeout a long time ago. I have to think about what I've done, my decisions.
I do think we are the same species, by the way, you and I.
I'm talking like men. You guys don't count.
We don't care. We're just a different species.
And yeah. I mean, I think I am clear proof that sexuality is not a choice because I wouldn't choose your species.
Well, that's rude. We try really hard.
It's true.
Shout out to all the triers out there.
All the tryhards.
Yeah, happy for the tryhards out there. We're doing our best.
Yeah, whatever. How was your weekend? Did you have a date on Friday? Because you said you were planning on going out. What did you?
No, I canceled those plans. I did not want to go out. I wasn't feeling very well on Friday, and I had like a chest cold all weekend, and by Friday I was cooked. So no, I stayed in and I watched Breaking Bad, which doesn't help. Like I've realized this, like we cover so much heavy shit that like I turned on Breaking Bad, and after a while I was like, I can't watch this anymore. Like I started finding myself like worrying about what would happen. Like, what if my life goes bad? Am I going to be a meth dealer? So
I don't think you're cut out for that line of work, to be honest.
Well, there was Walter White, and he made it work for a while.
But you're not Walter White. You're Jay.
Is that supposed to? Well, yeah, I guess I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience for that, nor the scientific proclivities.
I just don't think it'll work out. I think maybe try something else.
I did. I went back to. I finished off Trailer Park Boys, and I'm going to need something. I don't know. I learned something this weekend. They said about like, for people with ADHD, when you're like trying to regulate emotions, that that's what like it's better to turn on something you've already watched because like you already know what to expect. So like if you have ADHD and you're having a hard time with stress or like regulating your emotions, the stuff that you watch and anything suspenseful that you don't already know the answers to can like fuck with you. And so it seems to be, I mean, everybody does it, but it seems to be like rewatching things is a very ADHD response to things. Yeah, comfort shows.
Yeah.
Some of you guys are making the weirdest people. I don't understand any of the things that any of you are. I don't know any of these shows that you guys are recommending. And Game of Thrones. What was that? Dying for Sex? That sounds no. Resident Alien. I don't know. My name is Earl. I don't know. What were you saying, Jen?
I canceled like cable and stuff like that years ago. Like I don't watch shows. I mean, like my go-to is like Law and Order SVU. I watched probably every episode.
And Dateline.
Yeah, Dateline.
You're yeah, you watch the same shows as my mom.
Well, if anyone goes missing,
you're just embracing your getting older. Good for you.
Yeah, there's all of that. So, but I mean, we can get going, I guess, in the show since you started Because you're deleting things.
My bad. Yeah, I don't even know. Somehow a software got deleted off my computer. I don't know how that happened either.
Who knows? I don't know. When you say you do certain things, I have no idea.
Say? What did you say before? Did you say pooing outside?
What?
What'd you say? Did anybody else in the chat hear pooing outside? That's what I heard.
You need to get your ears cleaned, I think.
I've got headphones in them. That could be, but it's playing through the headphones, so that doesn't make sense either. Nobody else heard that. See, people in the chat heard it too. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Amanda heard
people
that
too. People are just saying things to make you feel better. It's fine.
Somebody else thought they heard Putin. Putin outside. See? Yeah, I was close. Did you say Putin outside?
I didn't say anything like that.
I feel like I'm being gaslit. All right, go ahead.
I said I don't know what you do with your computer.
I don't know.
I guess Putin could be for computer. Anyways, besides the point, let's get going. So we got our gift goal that we have each show for. This is our job. We do this each day, Monday through Friday. Now from 9:30 to 1 Pacific Standard Time. Arizona doesn't do daylight savings.
Yeah, fuck that daylight. So, we're not saving you.
No, it's so half the year messes me up. So I had like an extra hour to like dink around this morning that I didn't know what to do with.
I must have fucked with you.
It did. Not gonna lie. So gift goal, the Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats all go towards knocking at the gift goal. If you're not subscribed to us, do so that you can join us for our members only event. We have one later tonight. We're gonna watch the movie 2073.
Correct.
Right. So we'll start that at. Are we doing 6 Pacific now? Because we did it earlier.
Still need to do 6 Pacific. Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
So it's going to be at 6 Pacific instead of 5 tonight. So it's in our Discord. If you're a subscriber, paid member, wherever you're watching, make sure you're in the Discord, and we have it in a special stage channel that you can join us on for that. So if you disagree with RTP, you can come up and talk to him. And how you do that is you look at the Venmo username. That's my Discord handle. So Jen with 2 N's, Dub with 2 B's, and the number 1. Send me a message. I can bring you on. Check out the link tree in the bio. We're on most social media platforms. We've got merch. Jay's on Cameo. We upload the episodes to Spotify. And there's something else I was going to say.
I don't think Sully knows how. Wait, 6 Pacific, right? That's what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not 10 for you, Sully. It's Pacific Mountain. So it's 7, 8, 9, Sully. It's 9 o'clock for you.
Yeah, that's it. There was something I was going to say and I completely forgot, and I hate when that happens.
Sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah, you messed it up. Anyway, damn. Anyway, like I said, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats. Like the stream wherever you're watching. If you're on TikTok, hopefully we don't get taken down, but the odds are we will. So, like I said, check out the link in the bio, the link in the bio for other places you can go to watch us if we get taken down. So check that out. And hey, Birdie, shut up.
Who?
We're talking shit in the TikTok comments.
I see it now.
God damn. Anyways, and we'll get going. So, what do you call an unsophisticated pickle?
I don't know.
A dillbilly.
Oh, like hillbilly. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was like dillbilly. I had the deal part. Thank you, Jen. All right, everybody, we'll get started. And check this out. I went to the video screen before I started the video. So I'll take compliments, round of applause, whatever you want to do. Standing ovation. Jamie, thanks for the donation over on Cash App. Says happy Monday. Appreciate you. I've got a lot to cover today, so we're gonna try and cruise as much as we possibly can. I want to start with this. I want to talk about some election stuff. This is John Thune, or Thune. Is it Thune or Tune? I like saying Tune, but I think it's Thune. This is John Thune talking about the Texas Senate race, and everybody. We've talked about here the victory by James Tallarico, but what we haven't talked about is the fact that now Ken Paxton and John Cornyn are in a runoff, and that's going to require potentially an endorsement from Trump. And as much as Ken Paxton has been in Trump's pocket, it looks like Trump is going to wind up choosing Cornyn, and it looks like that the members of the Senate have leverage here. Now, Cornyn certainly is better than Paxton, but only marginally. And here's John Toon.
I've spoken with the president already today about Texas, and I'm certainly hopeful. I think, as probably you know, Martha, I've made no secret of the fact that I hope the president will endorse John Cornyn. He is an incredibly effective senator for the state of Texas, a strong conservative voice here in the United States Senate, and represents by far our very best hope of making sure that Texas.
Ew, Paxton will replace Bondi. I didn't even think about that. That would be so gross. I really hope that doesn't happen. Ew.
Stays red in November in that Senate election. And so we'll see. Ultimately, the president, he makes his own decisions, but I've certainly weighed in many times, I should say, in support of Senator Cornyn, and I believe he is not only going to win the primary, but the general election in November.
Yeah, I was just watching Matt Whitlock.
All right. Brianna said, I don't need to talk about Matt Whitlock here for a second. If God didn't want us to eat ass, why did he put it between two buns? Jesus, wasn't ready for that. There you go. There's a little break from John Thune,
who used to do the Republican Senate committee. He said he believes that an endorsement for Cornyn is coming from the president. You said you just spoke with him. Is it coming shortly, that endorsement from the president?
Well,
good segue.
I'm not going to characterize the conversations I've had with the president, but I think it's fair to say that he's paying a lot of attention, and he knows full well, Megan, how important it is that we hold Texas in Republican column, Republican hands. And so I expect you'll be hearing from him before too long. And I'm not certainly going to get ahead of that, but I'm just very hopeful that the endorsement will be for John Cornyn.
So here's what Trump said. He has not announced his endorsement yet, but he went on to True Social to talk about this. Here's what he had to say about his endorsement. And it's just, this is kind of a weird one because the Senate is pushing Trump, and Trump still wants to assert his control over the Republican Party, even when it's clear that he doesn't have full control here. And it releases this statement: the Republican Party, or the Republican primary race for the United States Senate in the great state of Texas, a state I love and won 3 times in record numbers, the highest vote ever recorded by far, cannot, for the good of the party and our country, be allowed to go on any longer. It must stop now. We have an easy-to-beat, radical left opponent. Imagine calling Tallarico radical left. I've never understood. They're trying to do this thing right now where they're going after him because he basically said that God is non-binary, which is, depending on the scholar you're talking to, considered true by a lot of people, that he is genderless. But so now they're trying to make him sound like a psycho. But we have to totally focus on putting him away quickly and decisively. Both John and Ken ran great races, but not good enough. Now this one must be perfect. My endorsements within the Republican Party have been virtually insurmountable. It is such an honor to realize and say that almost everyone I endorse wins, and wins by a lot. That's not entirely true. Especially in Texas, I'll be making my endorsement soon and will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race. Is that fair? No, probably not. We must win in November. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Basically, everybody agrees the person he's going to ask to step aside is going to be Ken Paxton, and Ken Paxton went on with Benny Johnson, just looking like shit. I can't believe that this is a real human being that is the Attorney General of Texas, and somebody that people in Texas are considering representing them. But here he is on Benny Johnson's show.
Off with John Cornyn. Congratulations, you did great in the election.
Give me 1 second. Let me do this real quick. I need to pull up something and close a program, and I just wanted to make sure that notification wasn't going to come up when I close that program. Thank you. There we go.
I want to ask a couple more Tallarico questions, but I guess the big question that a lot of people are wondering, Mr. Attorney General, is what will happen if President Trump endorses? He's asked for all the other candidates to drop out. Will you do that if President Trump endorses your opponent, John Cornyn?
Look, I think that the people of Texas deserve a choice. We've had John Cornyn in office for over 4 decades. I was in college, and I'm 63. He's been in office since I was in college. He's been representing us in the Senate, but he's not done it well. And when I've asked Texans, every stop, whether it's one person or 5,000 people, I've asked this question: can you name one good accomplishment of John Cornyn in the last, let's go back 40 plus years? And no one's ever given me an answer, even as
I don't know that most people could do that with any senator. Right? Good idea to say that. Good campaign, but can anybody say that about their senator?
supporters cannot name one good accomplishment. We have many bad ones, including opposing President Trump on many of the issues like the border and amnesty and even his own election. So no, I'm going to give people in Texas a choice. The people in Washington can have their own opinion. The president can have his own opinion, but I've been in this race for almost a year, and we're going to win this race in the runoff.
The indication that President Trump might.
Yeah. I hope he fucks it up. I love this. I'm a fan of this. Fuck it up. The cool thing about like why we should be rooting for Ken Paxton right now to not drop out is I think it's like 10 to 12 weeks somewhere along there that this process is going to take, and that's going to take funds. That's going to take funds out of the GOP's pocket, and they've already massively overspent the Democrats in Texas and couldn't turn out more voters than the Democrats did. But I would love 12 weeks of infighting. So if you're in Texas, maybe reach out to your Republican friends and make sure they know that it's not fair for Donald Trump to force somebody off the ballot. This is what you guys complained about when Vice President Harris was ushered in as the nominee, and you don't want to look like the Democrats, certainly. So you got to keep Ken Paxton in the race here against John Cornyn for the full 12 weeks. So encourage your Republican friends to encourage Ken Paxton not to drop out. That would be wonderful. Let's have 12 weeks of Tallarico out campaigning and 12 weeks of these guys throwing stones at each other.
Endorse you. I mean, do you think that, have you been in communications with the president?
Well, I know that John Cornyn has suggested that Susie Wiles, as chief of staff, is behind this. I don't know what's true or not true. That we just had the election a day ago.
How mad is Ken Paxton that he did all this guzzling and then Trump's going to finish on somebody else? It's got to be devastating. He put in all the work. He spit on it. He worked on his hand motions. He did everything right. And when it's time to finish, Trump's going to choose Cornyn.
And I'm out, pushing for my support because, my opponent just got done spending close to $100 million, and I spent $5 million, and I was within a point. So my goal is to step that up, because I really believe if I can get my message out about me and him, the truth, not his fake messages that he ran for the $100 million, but the truth, we'll make up that 1 point relatively easily, along with Wesley Hunt.
He sounds like everybody on TikTok. Like every generic Republican on TikTok that just calls things that they believe the truth. Oh, they don't report the real truth. He's not going to run on the real truth. He is just like a regular ass dipshit Republican who thinks that their feelings are what is true.
Votes moving my way.
All right. Go. Asta Sophia says, yet another Monday sending in support, my friend. Thank you, Asta Sophia, from across the pond. America says hello. And also, sorry, just in general, sorry. Kelly said, hope. Oh, wait, that was last week. Never mind about that. Chris said, I missed the tithing and Antifa dues for last week. Here's a little late fee as well. Thank you. Christy said, starting the dollar train early. Thank you very much, Christy. Okay, let's go to here. I want to show you this clip here. There's been a court case, and it looks like it's on its way to settling now. This is, I think, from I don't know if this is NBC or CBS today. If any of you have bought concert tickets in the last 5 to 10 years, you know that they're ridiculous. Like the cost of going anywhere now is insane. I used to have season tickets to the Suns, and I don't remember what I paid the first year, but I want to say they were good tickets. I want to say it was like $12,000 for 2 tickets. The next year it was like $18,000, and then they sold the team, and it was like $30,000 the next year, and then I stopped. Like the second year I bought them, and I tried to sell them and see if I could turn a profit or even pay for them, and I couldn't, and then there was no way. The price of going to any event has priced out regular consumers, and most of these arenas now where there's big events and the professional teams, they're not even worried about the everyday fan. They're trying to sell corporate sponsorships. They're trying to sell suites. They're catering to the wealthiest among us. And one of the reasons that you have high ticket prices in concerts and events is because of Ticketmaster, who has merged with Live Nation. I think Live Nation's like the concert promoter, and then they merged with Ticketmaster, who's obviously the software. They take a massive cut with everything, and they allow resale very quickly. And so you have people going in, like a Taylor Swift concert, for example. People will go in and they'll sit in line to buy the tickets, and whatever they are, $150, and but 30 minutes later they've bought 20 tickets and they're selling them online for $4,000 a piece, and it is priced out everyday people. And so there's been a lot of discussion about Live Nation and Ticketmaster. When they originally merged, a lot of people were upset, saying that that's going to create an unfair monopoly, as well as vertical integration, which is essentially just taking two people that they should have separate interests and aligning their interests together to raise prices. And there's been lawsuits, anti-monopoly lawsuits, in place since I think 2019. And here we'll explain it a little better.
Why is one ticket starting to cost $1,000 before tax?
It's a sentiment concert goers know all too well.
I'm at the point where concerts are not seeing me until these prices get lower.
Ticket prices are soaring, and so is frustration. But a new trial underway could transform the ticketing industry, with the Department of Justice arguing that Live Nation, the owner of Ticketmaster, operates a monopoly in direct violation of antitrust laws. At issue, the company's control of venues, promotion, and ticketing.
He just says, fuck ICE, fuck Trump, fuck Bibi, fuck the war. No notes.
Last year, Live Nation hosted close to 55,000 events globally and sold more than 646 million tickets, and is set to host some of this year's hottest acts, including Harry Styles and Lady Gaga. But some fans are already finding it difficult to obtain and afford tickets.
Oh my God, tickets to see Lady Gaga in New York is a total bloodbath for the Mayhem Ball.
A struggle many will remember from Ticketmaster's mishandling of the 2022 Taylor Swift Eras Tour ticket sale.
They're going for resale on StubHub for like $8,000.
I was really glad they didn't use my crying video for Taylor Swift. I didn't know this. I was planning on maybe next time she went on tour taking my daughter. However, I like my organs and I intend on keeping them. So maybe not on this next one.
With fans upset by price tags in the thousands and a difficult process that shut many out. At the time, Swift herself describing what unfolded as excruciating. And more artists are coming forward to advocate for change. Kid Rock, a potential witness in this trial, has been a vocal critic.
I believe music fans and artists have been getting screwed for far too long by the ticketing system.
Now,
does he look now like, doesn't he look like if George Strait had a drug problem?
Music fans and artists have been getting screwed for far too long.
Anybody else see that? Am I the only one that sees George Strait maybe got hooked on meth? You got any country music fans here when he looks like that?
System.
Now, the merger between Live Nation and Ticketmaster lies in a jury's hands.
I think the government is going to probably try to pursue a breakup, either between the Live Nation arm and Ticketmaster or within Live Nation.
What could this ultimately mean?
Also, there's no way that like Kid Rock concerts are sold out and have massive like retail markets, right? There's no way.
The consumer, for the concert goer.
The hope would be that you would have more options, lower prices, a better ticketing experience.
So on that note,
you know what? It might be Alan Jackson on meth. Let me go back. That might be better. I think I said George Strait.
Artists have been getting.
Yeah, it's Alan Jackson. Who said that? Well done. Bandan. Yeah, Alan Jackson. Yep. That's what I was thinking. Wrong country music artist, but that's correct.
Consumer, for the concert goer.
The hope would be that you would have more options, lower prices, a better ticketing experience.
So on that note, if the jury decides to, side with the ticket buyers, when could we actually see some changes?
So it would probably take a while for there to be any real change for the consumer in the ticketing landscape. But that being said, there is a chance that they could be ordered to pay damages to customers in different states, which could obviously be a big deal for consumers, in addition to a potential of lower ticket prices if there is more competition in the market. For its part, though, I will say, Live Nation does say that 75% of all U.S. concerts...
I mean, this is essentially what people want. They want this broken up. you shouldn't have Live Nation and Ticketmaster together. It's obviously a monopoly, and it forces vertical integration that hurts the consumer, prices people out. And they're taking massive fees on this too. Like the artists are even getting screwed here. Like the artists aren't happy about this.
Tickets are already priced below $100, and they really put the blame on those scalpers who do the ticket pricing gouging there for consumers.
Well, where did the scalpers get the ability to sell that way, though? It's probably a fair question, right? How do the ticket scalpers have this ability?
That's what they say. This could last, though, up to 6 weeks unless they settle. So a lot to watch for here.
That's a good point there.
Secondary market, as they call it.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So watching that, it's like I was really interested in seeing how this case played out. But like all things with this administration, Trump steps in and bails out rich people, and now we're not going to get dick here. So Live Nation, now the parent company of Ticketmaster, has reached a deal with the Department of Justice to settle charges that the entertainment company's dominance in the event ticket business undermined competition and hurt consumers. Under the settlement, Live Nation has agreed to pay $280 million in civil penalties to 40 states that sued the company over its practices. 80% of the states said, fuck you, we'd like to take you to court. And the Trump Department of Justice is like, nah, we're not going to take this to court. Ticketmaster must also open technology to allow other ticket sellers to use its platform to reach customers. Now, this part doesn't seem like that fixes anything. They're a monopoly, so they're going to continue to operate as a monopoly, but other ticket sellers can use their platform, which is obviously going to come at a cost to them too. So they made them more of a monopoly. $280 million, and you get to continue to exist. Plus, you're even more of a monopoly. I don't even know if it's a slap on the wrist. Like, it's a slap on the ass that they're asking for. The decision comes less than a week after Live Nation's antitrust trial kicked off in a New York courtroom. We're very excited about this settlement because it basically opens up markets for other competitors, which will allow for competition that previously didn't exist in primary ticketing in the live entertainment space, a senior Justice Department official said during a press briefing on Monday, adding that this change will have a direct impact on prices coming down. How? How's that going to bring prices down? Does somebody want to explain that to me? After the Justice Department announced the deal on Monday in a Manhattan federal court, Judge Arun Subramanian called it entirely unacceptable, saying that no one informed him of the tentative settlement until late Sunday. Now all the states involved in the suit agreed. Not all the states involved with the suit agreed. The deal was struck between the Justice Department and Live Nation. New York Attorney General Letitia James vowed to keep litigating on Monday, noting in a statement that the settlement fails to address the monopoly at the center of this case. So the 24 states plan to move forward with the lawsuit. That's Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New York. New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, Wyoming, and the District of Columbia. So pretty cool. Pretty cool that the Trump administration's like, nah, we fucking love monopolies. Are we winning yet, MAGA? Like, is this winning for you? How many more times do they have to sell out everyday people in favor of giant corporations and monopolies before you go, man, they might not be here for us? I can't for the life of me figure this shit out with you guys. What are they ever going to do anything for you, do you think? Are you waiting till the last 2 years of the administration? When do they start doing things for the people, for their voters? Yeah, I'm with you, Johnny Mac. They're trying to. It seems like they're trying to eliminate the poor. They're certainly not helping anybody who's poor. They're certainly not helping the middle class. Well, I don't like that's a shitty conversation that a lot of us have to have with our kids and their favorite musicians. Sorry, we can't afford to go to a concert because we need our house. We have to pay the mortgage this month. My bad. Trump, and I think this is the problem with filling a cabinet full of filthy rich people and a DOJ run by Pam Bondi, who I don't have all the details yet. I need to jump into it. Is now engulfed in another scandal, including a multi, like I think $130 million mansion that somehow she has acquired through a lobbyist, which is pretty fucking cool. But that's what happens when you fill an administration full of billionaires and run it with a billionaire. They have no concept of what things cost or how impactful this is going to be with everyday people. And who's your advocate? Who's the advocate for you in this administration? Who's the person that's like, hey, hold on, I'm the everyday person here. Let me stand up for the everyday voter, the everyday citizen. There isn't anybody. It's either complete and total sycophants or other billionaires who were trying to make a buck off of the Trump administration. The answer RTP? I don't know what that means. The Texas Democratic primary, the candidate that won was funded by a Republican. Tallarico was funded by a Republican? Who funded Tallarico that was a Republican? Or are you saying it was a different primary? Adelson, didn't he take Adelson money like forever ago? That wasn't this one, right? Let me look this up. I thought that was from like a previous campaign. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, that was the single biggest donor to Tallarico's state house reelection bid last year was a group funded by Miriam Adelson. He got $59,000 from the Texas Sands PAC. And then I don't think he took any money in the Senate campaign here. Fair enough to criticize him for that, but I don't think that's what won him the election in Texas. It's a hot topic right now. We're still doing that? Okay. All right. I read that before. I think we covered it here. Pretty sure we covered that on this channel. Yeah, Jackie. Most can't afford concerts because their house is almost in foreclosure. We're going to cover some of that today too. I think that unfortunately that's going to get worse. Let me show this too. Now this, I do have to say that this can happen, whether Republican or Democrat, but just another example of how fucked our systems are and how money and politics take away our direct voice. As much as they possibly can. This is, I'm trying to remember his name, Steve Daines' last minute decision to withdraw, and how Republicans now are doing the exact thing that they accused Joe Biden of doing, and perhaps that's why they accused Joe Biden of it with a handful of congressional and Senate races.
After much careful thought, I've decided not to seek re-election.
That was Montana Senator Steve Daines stunning the political world days ago in a last-minute move to drop his bid for a third term. It was so last-minute that no other candidate could even file for the race before the deadline closed, except for one, the GOP candidate whom Daines wanted to run for a seat and whom President Trump backed, boxing out Democrats and any potential GOP primary foe, all enraging the independent candidate still in the race.
They must think we're stupid, but we see this for what it is. A sleazy insider plot led by party bosses in Washington, D.C.
Well, that dude is 80% chin. That's crazy.
Sources tell me it played out over the last several weeks as Daines was contemplating retirement and cut that video back home on his cell phone. One of his allies, the U.S. Attorney for Montana, Kurt Alme, had been considering a run. Ultimately, Alme decided last Wednesday, the day of the filing deadline, to resign from his post and run for the Senate seat. So just 8 minutes before the deadline hit, Alme filed for the seat, just as Daines...
Nothing to see here, right? 8 minutes? It's great. You guys want to talk about Harris dropping out a few months before? 8 minutes? Man, it's crazy they couldn't put together a primary in 8 minutes. It's crazy there weren't other people who put their names in there with 8 minutes to go.
Daines withdrew his candidacy minutes before. And as time expired, Democrats and any potential GOP primary foes were caught flat-footed. The move, I'm told by two sources, was meant to deny Democratic leaders a chance to field candidates who have won statewide. And it could have put the state in play in November. Namely former Senator John Tester and former Governors Brian Schweitzer and Steve Bullock. any of those potential candidates would have turned Montana into a huge focus of money and resources this November. And sources tell me that Almy, Dane, Senate GOP leaders, and even Trump were in on the plot. And less than an hour after the filing deadline closed, Trump endorsed Almy, quote, based on Steve's...
In 8 minutes. There was enough information for Trump to give him his complete and total endorsement in 8 minutes. That's all it takes.
...recommendation. Now, the backroom maneuvering left many at a loss for words.
What did you make of the way Steve Daines withdrew from the race yesterday, 8 minutes before the filing deadline, and they anointed as his successor?
Lindsey Graham's so fucking gross. I'm so sick of Lindsey fucking Graham. Like, I don't care what side of the aisle on. Everybody knows Lindsey Graham is a piece of shit. What? You're going to laugh at this? The way that he talks about the voters, the way that he dismisses everybody now, the way that he dismisses the Constitution, the way that he just openly advocates for murdering people all over the world. Like, this is funny to Lindsey Graham? Axe said for the RTP slush fund. Thanks, RTP Jen and Mods. Appreciate that.
What did you make of the way Steve Daines withdrew from the race yesterday, 8 minutes before the filing deadline, and they anointed as his successor?
Well, he's a clever guy.
Is that denying the primary?
I hate to see what. I'm more focused on Steve leaving. That was a body blow. I love Steve.
But the process didn't concern you in any way?
You need to go talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, but just with the process, what'd you think? That was funny.
Now, asked by a CNN producer about his 11th hour move, Daines...
It is remarkable, like, just how in your face this administration is about fuck the Constitution, fuck all norms, fuck the voters. Like, you do what we say and you just be happy about it. I do think that, like, the normal human beings that are Republicans are seeing this for what it is. It's pretty disgusting at this point. Just how, like, I don't know. Maybe that's the type of transparency you wanted. Like, they're not pretending anymore. They're just like, yeah, you guys don't really have a fucking voice. You show up and you do what you're told.
Cited family.
Can I ask you about your last-minute decision to drop out of the primary for re-election?
Grandkids.
Now, the orchestrated handoff is something that has already happened this cycle in the House. In November, Congressman Chuy Garcia, a Chicago Democrat, abruptly announced he would retire after the filing deadline. And just a day after his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, had filed to run for his seat. Now, one of Garcia's Democratic colleagues called him out on the House floor for denying his voters a choice.
Now, same act, same amount of, same gross, right? Same amount of ick. The difference is, are there people within your party who are willing to be upset about that?
Representative Garcia's actions are beneath the dignity of his office and incompatible with the spirit of the Constitution.
Now, Garcia cited both family and health considerations for his late withdrawal. Still, 213 Republicans and 23 Democrats in the House.
Tyler. He probably just remembered he had grandkids 8 minutes before the filing deadline. Oh, fuck, I forgot I have grandkids. I better get out of here.
Voted to rebuke Garcia for stage managing his replacement.
All right. So there's more shady shit out of this Republican Party. But let's go to New York. Admittedly, I was off social media all weekend. This was fucking insane. I wanted to show this video because I think that it highlights a lot of things. One, it highlights anger. Two, it highlights repercussions of our foreign policy. And three, it highlights our distrust for the police, for law enforcement, for the establishment. And this is all incredibly confusing. So a bunch of people gathered together, including Jake Lang, who brought a pig because he's Islamophobic and a piece of shit. They gathered at what's the mansion called? The Gracie Mansion in New York, where Mamdani lives. And they gathered to protest, I guess, Mamdani and Muslims in general. and you have two people with an explosive device then go and just it's scary shit. They just throw an explosive device. You can see that here. You brought a sheep? I thought it was a goat. Now, this is the part. We'll show the throw here in a minute. Now they get this guy. And what alarmed me here is this is NYPD. This is somebody who obviously broke the law. This is somebody who obviously was trying to do damage with their friend. But we are so jaded now at this point of our police arresting brown people that listen to this lady. She's confused. Like she reverts back to what she's learned from watching ICE detain people, and she reverts back to like empathy and compassion. And now we're in this really like confused situation. You can hear her here. Does somebody have your emergency contact? Does somebody have your emergency contact? Just watching this whole thing, like the chaos that now exists in our country and our inability to even see things clearly when they're happening in real time is going to be so fucking hard to undo. Shut the fuck up, Mike. Shut the idiotic liberal women. There you go. Bring in the sexism. There you go, Mike. There you go. Maybe don't start a war with Iran for no fucking reason. And then let's blame the women. But everybody's confused. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's mad. There's so much chaos all the time that you're kind of just left, at least I feel like I'm left with trying to make sense of this every single day. Covering the news is fucking bizarre right now. It is really bizarre right now, trying to get your head around each event. Trying to figure out what actually happened at each of these events. That's quiet right there. There's the device there. All right. This is crazy. I'd missed this until this morning. Walter Masterson was there as an anti-protester and winds up being in the frame of the guy who throws the explosive device.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Obviously screams Allah Akbar, throws it, and you can see over here just fucking confused. Now, if that, from what I understand, if that would have exploded, like the damage to all of these people would have been done. You can see the person who threw it obviously ran. You might think they're running to get away from police, but this would have been within the blast radius. Like all of these people, Walter Masterson, all these reporters here, like they would have been in the blast radius.
We were born in.
I fucking hate this. I don't like this escalation. We've obviously got some extremists there throwing an explosive device. You have Jake Lang there as a Nazi, just inciting. A lot of people are upset about Muslims. I don't know why. I don't know what you're so afraid of with Muslims. Nobody can explain why the fuck we just went to war with Iran. That's putting us in danger. There's sleeper cells here from Iran. We're murdering innocent people in Iran. Do we not think that this is going to come back to us? Do we think like we're all safe from this? And when it does happen, what will be the Republican response to all of it? It'll be accelerationism. Accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. Somebody hit back harder. It'll be constant acceleration. That's why we're here in the first place. It was, we used to have an agreement with Iran. We had tempered things, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But it is gross, just on both people here. Like Jake Lang, gross. Obviously, I don't know the beliefs of that person. They're hollering Allahu Akbar, so we can assume that person is Muslim, and that in committing violence they feel justified in committing that violence. And obviously you don't want to condemn that, but it is something that I don't think that this administration has taken into account with their decisions in Iran and their decisions with mass deportation and their rhetoric. They haven't even considered the safety of you and I and all of us. I'm still waiting for an explanation of why the fuck we're in a war with Iran right now. You like your gas prices today? Cool. Why? Why are your gas prices so high? We can't afford it. We had to cut a bunch of people off of Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid because we can't afford it. You know, you need a Doge to come in and get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And then billions of dollars a day we're going to spend bombing Iran for what reason again? Because Trump had a feeling they were going to do something bad? That's what it was? Yeah, but the Dow, which is also crashing, so we can't even talk about the Dow. If it feels like I'm jaded today, yeah, I'm fucking jaded today. I don't particularly like living here right now. I'd be surprised talking to anybody right now who's like, man, America's fucking awesome. Does anybody feel like we're fucking awesome right now? Feel like this is going well right now? Yeah, I get you. Soft. Oh, we're soft. You guys are soft for having feelings. I don't know what to tell you. Like that's a crazy thing. Like that's exactly right. Who said that? Peaceway. Hate creates more hate, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, it's not a good emotion to have. It's not going to make things better. It's going to make things significantly worse. What's the end goal in Iran? We try to do regime change. What did we say was going to happen in Iran? That the next supreme leader would be far more radical. There we go. We've got a more radical leader in Iran now. It's almost like we never learn anything. And who's going to pay for it? All of us. Who's not going to be affected? These politicians. They're going to be fine. All right. Let's get Mom Donnie's statement here. I thought it was important. I thought it was a good statement. Mom Donnie said, today, in response to yesterday's protests outside of Gracie Mansion, yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It's an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Now, Jake Lang is upset that he was called a white supremacist, and he is, and self-avowed Nazi. I don't know why he's upset for somebody accurately saying what he is. He wants to get rid of all brown people out of this country. What followed was even more disturbing. So I think that's a great acknowledgement there by Mom Donnie if this was worse. Like, Jake Lang is a piece of shit. What happened was worse. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women of the NYPD who acted quickly to keep New Yorkers safe. Our officers ran toward danger without hesitation, demonstrating once again the courage and dedication it takes to protect this city every single day. My administration is closely monitoring the situation, and I remain in close contact with our police commissioner. Somehow right-wingers have figured out a way to be upset with that. I think they want him to say that the attackers were radical Islamic terrorists or some shit like that. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It seems to me like they probably are, or at least they feel justified throwing an explosive device based on their religion. But for Jake Lang to get upset that they accurately depicted him as a white nationalist is pretty wild. Like, that's what you are, dude. Jake Lang is a great filter for intelligence. Do you like Jake Lang? Yes. Okay. I no longer wish to speak to you. That's true. Good to see him and Nick Shirley linking up, though. Talked about Nick Shirley and white supremacy within the Mormon religion. He's a less aggressive white supremacist. All right. This is weird. Yeah, did any of you watch 60 Minutes this weekend? I'm going to show a clip here. I watched the whole thing. It's not the first time they've covered this. I think they've covered it like 5 or 6 times. 60 Minutes Australia has covered it too. They've covered the Havana syndrome many times. It's people who work within our government, usually CIA or State Department people, who suddenly have really, really extreme conditions. And now it's being reported that undercover U.S. agents have purchased the weapon that for decades our government and news sources have said doesn't exist. The rest of this, but you hear the victims of this explain, like, suddenly they would wake up and it felt like their head was in a vice or their spine was in a vice, or they'd have full body convulsions, or they would lose their sight, and then they had years of side effects from this. And for years they've talked about it, and nobody wanted to believe them. They thought it was a weapon all along. We know Israel has something kind of similar to this, and it is interesting that we're talking about Russia, who seems to have this weapon, but Israel seems to have something very similar that they've used. Weapon Al Jazeera said was Israel's using to evaporate Palestinians was true. I don't know much. I don't know about that report. I'm unfamiliar with what you're talking about.
Everyone at the table grabs their head as if in pain. Our sources say another video comes from a stairwell in the U.S. Embassy in Vienna.
Johnny, that's what I'm gripping. That's what I'm trying to like come to grips with too. Does it feel like we've altered the world forever with this shit? I'm not sure we can get back to normal, whatever that is. Yeah, like maybe. We certainly don't have the United States leading the, who has historically, at least in our lifetime, kind of been responsible for setting the stage and the tone of global politics. It doesn't seem like we're leading in a place that would de-escalate this stuff. I don't know. It makes me nervous about my life for sure. However readily accessible this becomes, it's a pretty damaging weapon. Like, what if they start using this on members of the press or dissidents? Yeah, it is scary. It's a scenario we're looking at right now where that type of pain and that type of weapon that's almost undetectable, or largely undetectable, could be used against anybody that they want to shut up.
Stairs lead to a collapse.
Yeah. Go watch it if you can stomach it. It's a rough watch. All right. Back to politics, though. This did spark outrage. I wasn't ever going to actually cover this story when I first saw it, but I wanted to cover it now just because of how the cover-up goes. So there was a dignified transfer. Is that called? Dignified transfer? Is that what it's called? Yeah, it's called a dignified transfer, right? I think so. And Trump showed up in his merch, which is disrespect. Let's just be honest. Like that's just disrespectful. And he decided he needed to show up in his merch. Maybe he had a bad hair day. Maybe it was going to be windy. I don't know why, but he showed up in his baseball cap here. Jen sent me this picture asking what he was doing with his hands. He was fixing his suit at the time. But then Fox decides to air this, and it seems clear that Fox knew that this was wrong, that he shouldn't be wearing a hat, because when Fox aired the footage, notice what changed here in Fox's footage with Fox and Friends here. And look, this is a very wealthy, very well-funded news organization, and look what they decided to show instead.
All right, meanwhile, turning now to your headlines, President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary Lady Usha Vance attending.
You'll notice no hat, no blue suit. Excess in a different outfit.
Dignified transfer to honor the final homecoming of the 6 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait. The solemn ritual returns the remains of troops killed in action. It is considered one of the most somber.
Yeah. I mean, that's Fox.
Duties of a commander-in-chief.
Yeah, this was, I think this was from 2025, this original video here.
President Trump promising the nation that they will all be remembered as heroes. All right, meanwhile, turning now.
All right. And then, after they admitted it, because this was their apology.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. Before we move on, we want to acknowledge a mistake made earlier on our program during our coverage of yesterday's dignified.
It's not a mistake. There's no way you got the footage from a year ago. It's not a mistake. You have to go back in your archives for that footage. This isn't a mistake. You have cameras there on the ground. What did they do? They sent in the wrong SD card from a year ago. They uploaded the wrong footage from a year ago. There's a 0% chance this is a mistake with these news organizations. It's one thing if there was like a dignified transfer yesterday and then there was one today and you mix those two up. This wasn't a mistake. It's 100% on purpose. And you'll notice in this apology, what they don't do is show the actual footage.
Transfer. We inadvertently aired video from an older dignified transfer instead of the ceremony that took place yesterday. We deeply regret the error and extend our respect and condolences to the service members' families.
Not even an explanation of how people figured that out. Not even like, well, because Trump was wearing a hat. No acknowledgement of that. Just straight propaganda.
We honor the sacrifice of those 6 American heroes. They are Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicola Moore, Sergeant First Class Noah T-Chens.
All right. Always. It's gross. Like this country is has never been like this. Mods, when you're done with J-May, like he's trying real hard. When you're done playing with your food, feel free to do whatever you want with that. Appreciate that. All right. Let's talk about Kristi Noem, who was fired and MAGA's pretending that she's not fired. Jake Tapper had on Tillis here and asked specifically about Kristi Noem. And even more specifically, and I give Tom Tillis credit here because Tom Tillis has said now, and a handful of other Republicans have said, yeah, the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good were unjustified. But like, is it going to change with Markwayne Mullins? Are we going to see a difference here?
One of your points of contention with Secretary Noem was her handling of the aftermath of those fatal ICE shootings of 2 American citizens, specifically how she jumped to conclusions before their deaths had been investigated, calling them domestic terrorists. I do want to play for you how Senator Mullen reacted just hours after Alex Preddy was shot and killed.
A deranged individual that came in to cause max damage with a loaded pistol with an extra mag that was completely loaded, was shot and killed. Now, how much more does this got to go on before the Democrat leaders there take responsibility for their words?
For what? None of that's against the law. Isn't it bizarre? Like, Republicans want to believe in Markwayne Mullin. They want to believe that he's not just going to be a puppet like Kristi Noem, but all he has been is a puppet. He was saying the same thing she was saying on the same day. He was given the same talking points from this administration. There's a 0% chance that Tom Tillis was smart enough to come up, or excuse me, Markwayne Mullin was smart enough to come up with this on his own. Of course not. From Oklahoma, where they're like, you should wear handguns as earrings. If you don't have 15 handguns on your body at all time, you are not responsible. You're not a responsible gun owner. And now it's like, you showed up with a concealed weapon, you deserve to die.
So obviously there's no evidence that Alex Preddy was deranged or that he came to cause maximum damage with a loaded pistol he had a license to carry, or that any Democratic leader was responsible for this tragedy. Does that give you any pause?
It gives me pause that you had people like Stephen Miller calling the shots that actually I believe that maybe Kristi Noem acted on. It was Stephen Miller that was talking about a terrorist brandishing a gun.
But also Markwayne Mullins. I don't want to diminish what a piece of shit Stephen Miller is, and I don't want to diminish the fact that Tom Tillis has a real problem with Stephen Miller, and I appreciate that coming from the right. But Markwayne Mullin is saying the exact same thing. Electric Dad said it's gross to see a draft dodger salute deceased soldiers.
Stephen Miller who said it was the position of the United States that we should go after Greenland. It's Stephen Miller that's been repeatedly responsible for embarrassments for the President of the United States by acting too quickly.
Thanks, Caitlin. Said donation in honor of J. May's mom for raising a knuckle-tracking bitch. I'm so sad that I got to that one late. I'm sorry, Caitlin. That's wonderful.
Speaking first and thinking later. I think if I don't think Mark Wayne goes to the podium and repeats something that Stephen Miller says. I think Stephen Miller's demonstrated he too is out of his depth, and I think Mark Wayne will learn from that.
I don't know why Tom Tillis thinks that. Markwayne Mullin isn't even in the administration, and he's a spokesperson for the administration. I don't know how on earth he drew that conclusion. Now Trump is threatening to shut down our government by himself if he doesn't get the SAVE Act done. So that's cool. We'll look for Republicans this week to start saying that this is a good idea. It's a great job by hardworking Scott Pressler on Fox and Friends talking about using the filibuster or talking filibuster in order to pass the Save America Act, an 88% issue with all voters. That is a lie. I think it's 80% of Americans think that you should have to show ID in order to vote, which you already have to do. You have to show ID and prove your citizenship before you register to vote. So that already exists. 80% of America does not agree with what's in the Save America Act. This is another lie that Republicans consistently tell, and they misuse polling to say that this is very popular. It must be done immediately. It supersedes everything else. Why, by the way, MAGA, why is this so important that we have voter ID? Can you guys, let's pretend for a second that the Save America Act is a voter ID law. Why is this so important? %90 agree. Oh, okay. It's 90% now. Got it. Don't have a whole lot. Every state has to show identification, some form of identification to register to vote. It's just not true. Like, and Martin, every single person has to confirm their identity when they register to vote. Nothing? Why is it not important? Well, you already have to do it. That's a very MAGA way. Let me just not answer your question and reframe it and give it back to you. How come you guys can't ever answer fucking questions? Every time I stop and give you attention, you just start reversing the question or insult people. Anybody? Okay. Multiple of you just reversing the question. Okay. None of you know? You just support it just because? All right. I, as president, he says, will not sign other bills until this is passed, and not the watered down version. Go for the gold. Must show voter ID and proof of citizenship, which you already have to do. No mail-in ballots except for military. Why would military ballots be safe, but other mail-in ballots aren't? Could anybody want to answer that one? If mail-in ballots aren't safe, then why are they safe for the military? What's the difference? Do you think a person should show an ID every time you vote? No, I don't think that you should have to show an ID every time you vote. Because the military can be trusted to handle its own mail. They don't handle their own mail. What are you? It still goes through the Postal Service. Do you think they have full control of their mail all the way through? Again, just nothing. No answers there? Okay. Also for illness, disability, travel. Travel, I guess if you're traveling. So it's safe if you're traveling. It's safe if you have a disability. It's safe if you're sick or in the military. But for everybody else, it's not safe. I mean, they're just being honest here, accidentally, that there are no problems with mail-in ballots. They just don't want as many people to vote. The less people that vote, the better it is for the Republican Party. And then we're adding this, and this is a distraction. This has nothing to do with the bill, and it has everything to do with what Republicans desperately want to do. And we can't fall for it again. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. Do not fail President Donald J. Trump. Let me just say this. As somebody who supports the rights of trans people, it is important to support the rights of trans people. It is not super important to sit on the internet and argue with a Republican on whether or not trans people exist. Just like it's not important to sit on the internet and argue with a Republican on whether or not the sun fucking exists. Because the sun exists and trans people exist. Save that for legislation. Save those fights for legislation. But the reason he's adding this in now is because he wants people to be caught up in this discussion. This is a discussion for the courts. This is a discussion on state and local levels when it comes to participation in sports, and you should be involved in that. But it has absolutely nothing to do with what you're going to be voting for in federal elections. It will have there will be no amount of change regardless of who you vote for. It's not going to be passed federally. It can't be passed federally. These are local decisions. It's going to happen on the local level. But you see Donald Trump now as he's getting desperate. He's now reverting back because he thinks this is a winning issue. And it's a winning issue even for people who don't agree with him, just because it gets people to not talk about these other issues. And again, I don't want to say that the rights of trans people should not be something that's discussed. It shouldn't be something that it should be something that we ignore and that we don't fight for. However, please remember where you are in the discussion, who you are discussing it with, and whether or not it has any significance on the broader discussion and on the election as a whole. It doesn't. He just wants you to talk about this instead. And Republicans are getting hard right now just thinking about, like, oh, what if we get to demonize trans people again? Don't argue with people about the existence of something that absolutely exists. If they're already saying that trans people don't exist, it's not worth the conversation. That's my friendly advice. Amy said, no mutilation, so no more circumcision. No, it's only for stuff that he finds icky, Amy. Even though, of course, circumcision is mutilation. Got that there. Just a reminder, as we're going on, I think I got all those. We are crowdfunded, so anything you can do to help us knock out the gift goal will be greatly appreciated. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, TikTok gifts, Super Chats, all that. Ty said, Ken Paxton saying he'll drop out of the race if the SAVE Act is passed. I haven't seen that. That would be new to me. So, does anybody know? I'll take your word on that, Ty. By the start of the show, I hadn't seen that. No IDs as illegals can vote without ID. There have been 20 people who are undocumented who voted in the last 30 years out of 2 billion. And they had to show some sort of ID and verification to even be registered to vote. So those were like state level failures that allowed those votes to get through. Not a problem with the law. It was a problem with the failure of the people that administer the law. It's not an issue. People voting here in the United States that are here illegally is not an issue. Yeah, just bullshit. We just yell bullshit. Bullshit. It's the Heritage Foundation did the study. You can go look it up. The same people who wrote Project 2025 ran a 30-year study about how many people have been able to vote in elections in 30 years that were undocumented, and it's 20 out of 2 billion. So, I mean, I guess if that's a big issue for you, 20 people. Legendary said, "Why would less people vote due to voter IDs?" It's not necessarily. Well, I wasn't talking about voter ID there, but that is inclusive. Some people don't like. You don't always need an ID, but the types of IDs now that are required, a lot of people don't need. Like, you don't necessarily need a real ID. I think something like 40% of Americans don't have a passport. It's also it can cost money to go get an ID. So if you find out the day before you're voting that you need a specific ID in order to vote, you're not going to get that ID. You're not going to be able to vote. It's all about just like making sure that the least amount of people vote as possible. And you just have to, like, it's not that it's impossible to get an ID, right? Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that there's groups of people that are too incompetent to get an ID. That's the Republican argument that they use to try and distract from the fact that, like, most people aren't following politics this closely. A lot of people aren't going to be aware of the changes. You can look at the Democratic primaries that just happened in Texas, and you can see how many people showed up that day to vote. They knew when the primary was. They knew where they were supposed to go. They knew who they were going to vote for, and they showed up, and the primary location had been moved, and their ID that they had at the time was not accepted. So that suppresses the vote, and that's the whole idea. The lower the turnout, the better it is for Republicans. That's always it's always the case. The higher the turnout, the better it is for Democrats. So naturally, Republicans say, oh, it's higher turnout because people are voting illegally. What they're actually saying is it's higher turnout when it's easier to vote. It should be easy to vote. Why should it be hard to vote? I don't even think Republicans, like the Republican response here is going to be like, it's a privilege, like you should have to earn it, or we got to be sure. Well, we don't really have problems with voter fraud here. Why not make it as easy as possible to vote? And I think Republicans, you even know that that's true, like it should be, but you're not allowed to because your party's like, no, it definitely shouldn't be easier to vote. So that's why you always wind up with these dumb fucking excuses that there's no data to back, like undocumented people are voting and dead people are voting and people are voting 2, 3, and 4 times. And then you go on Facebook and you see a story that's like, hey, this person voted 4 times. And then you verify and it's like, actually, those were just 4 people with the same name. There's 4 people with the same name. They all voted. Sometimes you'll find that you'll see a story that's like this person was caught voting 2 different times, and you're like, see, you're like, yeah, see how they were caught. How did they get caught? Because our systems actually work. Our systems mostly catch these things. There is absolutely zero evidence in this country of massive voter fraud. None. At least in terms of like people actually submitting ballots. System kicks out bad votes. This is another non-issue. Yeah, it's entirely voter suppression. And if you were in the back rooms of Republican policymakers, they would be saying the same thing I'm saying, is that like we need to suppress the vote. What can we do to suppress the vote that looks legitimate on the outside? What legitimate issue can we take and expand it so that our voters believe this is about voter integrity when it's really about voter suppression? And then they trot these lines out to you and you buy them hook, line, and sinker. And suddenly you're like, yeah, let's suppress the vote. But you think you're actually just advocating for making the vote more secure. That makes sense, Republicans? We good on that? What do you say? Feds in the chat and bots? The bots are here. They're always here. All right. Let's do this, and then we'll move into Epstein. We're going to talk some economics, and then eventually Iran. But I want to show you this clip from Andy Bashir and what's happening in Kentucky. And what's happening in Kentucky, and the reason a lot of people like Andy Bashir and consider him a potential front runner for the Democratic nomination for president is because of stuff like this on with Midas Touch.
You got to fight against and not a partner in the federal government, which is what governors are used to in a federalism system, uplifting, partnership, helping, but just outright antagonistic. And Kentucky's still done some great things last year, a lot of great things, and setting records and sending goods internationally. And you've had to fight this, and you still have managed. But I just think, though, with all the great things Kentucky's done, I also think how great it would be if you had a partner, over there who actually helped the people and didn't fight it. It could be 3x, 5x what it actually was.
Absolutely. That is what it is 100%. We are winning in spite of Donald Trump, not because of him. Since I've become governor, we've set every record, $45 billion in new investment, 68,000 new jobs last year. Our highest average incentivized wage for new jobs in our history, almost $30 an hour. That brings a better future for our families. We just broke our all-time exports record with over $50 billion of Kentucky products sent all over the world. And that is even with bourbon taking a hit, which is directly related to Donald Trump's attacks on Canada. But we've been able to do some other special things that I'm really proud of. We built the first hospital in West Louisville, our largest African-American community in the state, in 150 years. We just wrapped the first year of services, and 60,000 people got to see a doctor close to home and got better health care. And then out in the East, with help from what began in the Biden administration, we are engaged in the, I think, most ambitious rebuild in U.S. history. After all that flooding, especially the 2022 flooding, we're moving people out of the hollers, which are the valleys. We're building new towns on top of abandoned coal mines, running state-of-the-art infrastructure up there. We are building affordable housing in rural America.
Listen to this.
addressing that crisis at the same time that we're helping people who've been through the worst. And right now, it looks like the average utility bill for each of those houses is going to be about $50 a month because we're using solar panels. We're embracing different parts of.
Yeah. Imagine that. While Trump attacks affordable renewable energy, the people of Kentucky in rebuilding have decided we're not going to go back. As we rebuild and we make affordable housing, we're going to use solar. We're going to get renewable energy. We're going to drop people's bills. Everybody, every country in the world is trying to do this, except the United States, who is completely controlled by the oil barons who own Donald Trump. Who's getting crushed right now with this war in Iran? All of us. How's it going to go in the summer? It's going to be a fucking nightmare in the summer. I live in Arizona, and I've explained this before, but like the bills this last summer in my neighborhood, the average bill monthly was $700 to $800 a month for electricity. If you have solar, you can mitigate a lot of that. You can cut it down to between $200 to $300. But with prices doing nothing but going up, we're talking about in Arizona people with $1,000, $1,200 electric bills coming up that they cannot afford. For many, I mean that's half a mortgage payment for the average house. That's the reality that we're looking at right now. And Donald Trump has taken away the subsidies that allow people to get solar that could mitigate that. And then he accelerates this war in the Middle East, which is driving the price of energy up. And at the same time saying, hey, why don't we in America, while we're driving this price up, at the same time, why don't we invest in massive data centers? And let's do it in areas where people have lower utilities, because that's where the data centers want to be anyways. And we'll drive up those customers' utility costs as well. And we'll subsidize these data centers with government money and foreign investment. Nothing for you. Nothing for you, MAGA. Nothing but the cruelty. And I'm left to believe that anybody hanging on at this point with MAGA, you only were in it for the cruelty. You were never in it for affordability. You were never in it to end regime change wars. You were never in it to more sensible border policies or deportation policies. We're left to just assume it was always about cruelty for you. Otherwise, what explanation are we left with? Cheerleading your own demise is like a pathetic thing to watch every day. You'll notice in the chat, like, it's even hard for the bots to get attention. It's hard for the trolls to even get attention, because I think that for a lot of us, you've become a source of pity. We look at you now and the way that you continue to advocate for this and cheerlead it, and it's almost pity now, because it's like, yeah, you guys are willing to fuck your own lives over to say that Trump's winning. It makes you more happy to see people criticizing Trump and upset about it than it does to have your life just be decent. Are you crying? I might cry later. Everybody should cry. It's a good thing to cry. Jeez, that's a crazy hypothetical there. Legendary Perry said, your argument is you predicting what'll happen when shown up to vote, saying people won't know what type ID to have until they show is irresponsible and not happening, bro. It is happening. I already addressed that you can call it irresponsible if you want, but it's still supposed to be voter suppression. But yeah, all of that is happening, all the stuff you just said. And yeah, I get it. Like, you're doing exactly what we said. You're just carrying water for the administration. Well, they should know better. Okay, cool. But there's no problem. We don't have a problem that we're fixing. So you're just making it harder to vote. So I appreciate it, but you're saying everything that I just said. You're just confirming that you're all exactly what we thought you were. Or like, not you all, but you are like what we were assuming MAGA is. You just blindly defend something for no reason. I asked you, notice that I've asked you guys to explain to me what the problem is. Point to something that says people who are undocumented are voting in federal elections in any measure that would affect any election ever, and you didn't answer that. Instead, it's always a criticism of me and never an answer to the direct question. Yeah, for free. That's a good point, Noodle Poodle. Not only are you carrying water for the administration, you're doing it for free. Just free labor. Okay. And then moving on here. I want to show this from CNN. This was a good segment by CNN. CNN's doing
Oil prices,
some good stuff. So cue the people in the chat upset at CNN. But as we move into, and I'm going to try and connect these together. I don't have a ton of Epstein stuff, but I want to talk about oil here. And then we actually may skip the Massey part. Yeah, we'll do it this way. But let's talk about the disruption that's happening and why we're seeing. I looked today. Last week I paid, I think, $3.49 a gallon here in Arizona. It's always expensive here. This morning when I went to go get coffee, it was $4.18. So in a week, we're up 68 cents in Arizona, at least around me.
soaring. West Texas crude now hovering around $100 a barrel. You can see this chart over time. The last time it was this high was when Russia invaded Ukraine, and that height was at June of 2022.
Sorry, before this goes, this is a longer video before Jen gets mad at me. Just want to remind you guys we are crowdfunded, so anything you can do to help us knock out that goal would be greatly appreciated. You see the ways at the top, in the top left corner, or straight above you if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube. And also a reminder that we have paid subscriptions with YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. So if you want to join us tonight to watch 2073 in the Discord, make sure you're a paid subscriber, one of those places. There's different levels of membership, but all of those levels will get you access to movie night.
But I want you to look at the very end of this chart, an almost vertical increase over the last 2 weeks, an incredibly quick rise over a very short period of time. It could get even higher, experts say, by the end of March, maybe even $150 a barrel if travel through the Strait of Hormuz does not start flowing again. That flow of oil through that critical.
Also a reminder that Mr. Global predicted all of this. So there were smart people that you could have listened to, and you could have rearranged your vote so you didn't vote for this. But again, it seems like the cruelty was the point.
Waterway has effectively ground to a halt. It's only a 20-mile stretch of sea between Iran and Oman, and actually only a 2-mile wide sea lane. The president shrugged off the rise in oil prices, calling it a very small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace. CNN's Matt Egan is.
We'll get to that in a minute, but you'll see how Republicans just immediately started falling in line with that talking point.
With us now. In these prices we've seen overnight, the sharp increase, more than 10% in one day, Matt. That's pretty staggering.
Yeah, it is absolutely staggering. Look, oil prices are going through the roof. And you know, oil is a notoriously boom to bust market. But even by those standards, this is just a historic spike. Look at this. Oil prices 9 months ago, all the way on the left side of your screen.
That's kind of... Again, they knew this would happen. Nobody is shocked by this. Why are we at war with Iran? If we knew this was going to happen, what was the point? I'm still waiting for them to tell us why we're at war with Iran, or any of you.
Last time there were tensions with Iran and a conflict, and that looks like just a tiny increase compared to what's going on now. Before the war started, U.S. oil prices were trading at about $67 a barrel. At one point overnight, they got to $119 a barrel. Now, let's look at a live look at oil prices. You can see they have pulled back from that peak just over $100 now. However, 11% increase, a $10 increase of dollar amounts. At one point this morning, U.S. oil prices were on track for their biggest one-day dollar increase in history. Now, as you mentioned, the problem is the fact that this war has disrupted the supply of oil out of the Middle East. And it's not just that the Strait of Hormuz effective closure is delaying the shipment of oil out of the region. It's the fact that oil producers there, they have nowhere to put the oil. They're literally running out of room to store it all. So they have to slash production. And you look at gas prices.
It's at 90 now? Is it really? Let me look at this. 92.4. Okay.
It's $2.98 before the war started, $3.48 a gallon right now. That's the highest level since August of 2024. Quite the move in just the span of a little over a week. And, you know, this is another look at gas prices as well. Zooming out, you can see how it's just going significantly higher. Now, it's not just gas, though, John. Jet fuel, right? Jet fuel prices have skyrocketed. United Airlines CEO warning that could raise the cost of airfare. And diesel as well. Diesel prices, they're actually up by even more than gasoline on a percentage basis. 24% increase. This is a 3-year high. And look, this is bad news for farmers, for railroads, for trucks, and ultimately, John, for consumers, because everyone is indirectly paying the cost of diesel when they're buying stuff. So this is a significant situation. And look, the White House is arguing, the president has said that this is hopefully just a short-term glitch and that prices will eventually crash. Hopefully, he's right. I think the bottom line here is how long does this last, right? The duration. Because if this is just a few days of $100 or so oil, this could end up just being a blip economically. But if this is something that lasts in terms of weeks or even longer, then you're going to start to hear some people really concerned about a potential recession.
What makes you, those saying you don't think it's going to last, like what makes you think it's not going to last? Do we see an end in sight to this war? We'll get to Iran here in a minute. I'm not seeing any indication that this is going to be over very quickly.
Caused by higher energy prices. And looking at U.S. stock futures, they're down, but not dramatically lower given the scale of the spike in oil prices.
Again, when I woke up overnight and prices were around $120 a barrel, there was, I don't want to use this word loosely, but there was borderline panic at the steep increase in just a few hours.
Absolutely. There's no other way to look at it.
People were on the edge of their seats for a few hours. Maddie, thank you very much for that.
There was an overnight drone attack on...
All right, stop it there. All right. Let's talk about one Epstein connection here to Iran, and then we'll move on to some economics and then into Iran here. But I wanted to show this. Jeremy Scahill and Ryan Grimm were on with Tim Dillon, who has remarkably become like one of the most important political podcasts when it comes to the Epstein files. And just the blatant corruption by this administration. And important because he's kind of been viewed as on the right. I don't know if he's still viewed that way, but he's still friends with a lot of these right-wing comedy podcasters. And him bringing light to this has actually been probably really important for public discourse. But here he has both Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill. Again, just trying to make sense of why the fuck we're at war with Iran.
And I think Trump's going to be sorely disappointed because I think when the war ends, if the war ends with us still alive on this planet, we're going right back to those files, Guy. Like, we haven't forgotten about this.
Jeremy, can you speak to that? And then, Jeremy, also adding to that, from your understanding of someone like Jeffrey Epstein, now I'm not accusing Jared Kushner of being a human trafficker, obviously, but when you look at what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and you look at what Jared Kushner was doing, sort of being a whatever you want to call it, right? Like a rainmaker, putting all these people at the table, trying to arrange scenarios to get certain results, working sort of with government, but also outside of government. Would it be completely crazy to say that Jared Kushner is working in an Epstein-like fashion to maintain certain relationships and to build other relationships?
Yeah, Sarah from Sask. It does seem like he did fill that role. Whatever you want to say about what Kushner's doing, he definitely filled that role. It's obvious now going through the Epstein files that Epstein was deeply, deeply connected, and he was helping make decisions, and he was shaping, I don't know, foreign policy as much as like behind the scenes negotiations. And that seems to be what Kushner's role is now.
And to increase the likelihood that certain outcomes happen on a global chessboard. Do you see Kushner as a figure like that, or am I overstating it?
You know, I think one of the biggest scandals is what's hidden in plain sight. I think that, a story like the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with all of these ultra powerful people, and Ryan has done more reporting than anyone on the Israel connection on this. it captures the imagination, but part of why it's so damning is that it's indicative of something that isn't even a secret conspiracy. That what's hidden in plain sight is that the reason that we're at war against Iran right now is because of the way that the U.S. political system is arranged. It's because of the sameness of policy that exists among the elites of the Democratic Party and the kind of most vicious elements.
JSEX 24-hour ban. Good try, JSEX. Remember, bud, your transphobia is not welcome here. We're trying to help you. So that's 24 hours for you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Of the Republican Party. This is an enormous indicator of the influence that Israel has over an issue as sensitive of the decision of a state to go to war, where you have, as you mentioned earlier, the Secretary of State mistakenly saying the quiet part out loud that we did in fact go to war for Israel, and then he has to walk it back later, and then Trump has to concoct this ridiculous statement about how the U.S. has been in a state of needing to preempt Iran for 47 years. But what's hidden in plain sight is in a way more damning than the Epstein files. It's that we have a system that produces the kinds of characters that are in power right now. That in the open you have Miriam Adelson being able to purchase American foreign policy and get it done.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, is that in a way it's kind of nice. Like, there is more transparency. A lot of these conspiracy theorists before, they weren't able to connect these dots, but under the Trump administration, it's so brazen. You can just openly be corrupt. And again, it's showing this administration, who's not corrupt in this administration? Which member of the cabinet doesn't have corruption hanging over them? Can you think of one? If we did this with the Biden administration, I don't think anybody that's a Trump voter could even name anybody from the Biden administration. They'd be like Harris. Maybe they might be able to Pete Buttigieg and maybe Mayorkas. But go down the line. Who isn't corrupt? Who doesn't have connections to dark money? Who isn't accused of taking dark money? It's all of them. That's who they want around them. They want this type of corruption around them. Somebody earlier in the chat, I saw it said flood the zone with shit. Steve Bannon saying, yeah, if they're all corrupt, then it's kind of a good deal for MAGA, because MAGA's they're not all corrupt. So then MAGA gets to dismiss all of it as, you guys are just going to claim that everybody's corrupt. Well, they are. Yeah, the whole fucking administration is. Give me a name that we can't find, that we don't have dirt on. I can't think of one.
That you can have a Jared Kushner, and I think you're nailing it there. He is the fixer extraordinaire right now for the U.S. government as a whole, because Trump is the president. And the nexus of corporate power and government, the relationships with the Gulf countries, the relationships with...
Kristen said everything that's happening, it hurts my stomach. Yeah, drink water, go out, take a walk. But yeah, I'm with you.
Israel, the political interference around the world, and then the way that they have sort of conducted a coup d'etat in plain sight against the American Constitution. It's beyond Dick Cheney's wildest dreams. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld spent their entire lives playing by the wrong set of rules. They wanted to do this, but they made the huge mistake of actually believing they needed to follow the rules. Trump has shattered that illusion. And you don't have to read an Epstein file to see it. It's hidden. It's hidden nowhere anymore. It's just out in the open. And what do we have as an opposition? Hakeem Jeffries? Chuck Schumer?
What a crew. Thank God we've got the buffer of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to write strongly worded letters and tap dance around whether or not they're going to hide AIPAC money. Thank God. How would we survive without Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer?
What are they doing?
Right.
Trump laughs at them. Trump's running the deck on these people.
Well, is Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries principally opposed to regime change in Iran? It doesn't feel like that.
No.
Right. No, they're quietly celebrating it. They obviously can't come out and celebrate it, but this is what they've always wanted.
No. I mean, bingo. No. I mean, Chuck Schumer, his whole life has wanted to see his whole political career has wanted to see this happen. I mean, Ryan and I did a report recently. I mean, Ryan should speak to this, but we did a report that was showing that even last June, Schumer and other Democrats saw opportunity in the possibility that Trump would try to go all in a regime change war.
All right. And we'll get back to the
And
regime,
I think Trump's
to the
going to
regime
be
change war. But before we get there, because I do think this has economic implications, and I do think that to some extent you could make the accusation that this war it serves a lot of different purposes. It serves to cover up what's in the Epstein files, which is great. It serves to bend over and take it up the ass from Israel, which is MAGA's favorite thing to do. It serves as a way to pump money into the oil executives' hands and those who have invested in oil. It helps Donald Trump when it comes to promoting Islamophobia. There are a lot of ways that this potentially could help the Republican agenda or Republican donors. What it doesn't do is help any of us. And you can see the impacts of that economically and the disaster that is Donald Trump as a leader of this country economically, and an unchecked leader. Right? Like it's not like the first Trump administration where there were some bumpers and that there were some checks and balances. They've just handed the party to him and said, "Do your thing, man." And I don't know if they didn't know, or they're just also financially illiterate or economically illiterate, but they handed the keys to our economy to a psychopath who only views things in terms of what can I personally get from this. And so it should be no surprise that under this Trump administration, economically, Trump and his billionaire friends have never done better. And the rest of us are now month after month, we're just seeing numbers that we haven't seen since 2008 or since the COVID pandemic. And we're matching those numbers with no real problem, like the COVID pandemic. You know, you can blame Joe Biden all you want. You can blame the border. What is this big problem that has caused our economy to take such a fucking nosedive? It's Trump. It's really dumb policy. And it's really dumb policy that allows him leverage to gain money personally, which he's done very, very well. He's done very well for himself, enriching his own pockets. But here, let's talk about Liberation Day. Here's Justin Wolfers to explain just how bad things have gotten since Liberation Day. By the way, somebody check in with Millie. Remember when she used to say, these tariffs are going to work? Where are all of you people who said the tariffs are going to work? Since we announced those tariffs in April of last year, it has been nothing but dog shit piled on dog shit and then eaten and shitted back out on the dog shit. And Republicans bury their faces in it and call it potpourri. It has been a disaster by every economic measure. There is no economic indicator that says this shit is working, and Republicans will go down. They'll fight till the death to lie to you and say that this economy is really working well.
Tell me, why did job growth plunge? And why do you think this is a sign the economy could be close to a recession?
She thinks Trump's doing great. Yeah, it's because she's fucking dumb. I've never seen anybody read so much and be so wrong. It's a remarkable how she can read something and always get the wrong lesson from it.
Right. So it's not just that we had one bad monthly number. That's what I want people to understand. We also learned the last few months were worse than we thought. And so there'd been a touch of optimism that's all gone away. And here I think is the most telling statistic, Laura. Since Liberation Day, the president's last big, bold set of promises when he told us everything was about to be magical, we've lost jobs. We've gone backwards. So when you're losing jobs, I'm going to call that a jobs recession. This is not just one bad month. We've been having bad months.
Spin it. Spin it for us. Since we introduced tariffs, which are supposed to reshore manufacturing jobs, which were also then going to increase construction jobs, minus 92,000. And the unemployment rate has gone up. Legendary said, Obama bombed Libya for 7 months without congressional approval, but when you bring it up, people say that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Trump. Well, first of all, we are talking about Trump. And second of all, you only want to talk about Obama because you don't want to talk about Trump. And third, you did have broad authority during the Obama administration because we generically allowed the presidents to authorization of war broadly against the war on terror. So it was it was entirely misguided, and it shouldn't have happened. But this is different because that use of authorization is gone now. So Trump doesn't have that use of authorization. Is it true that what Obama did was wrong? I think so. It sounds like maybe you think so too. But he did have a use of authorization. It did exist. So be nuanced then. You can disagree with both of them, but you're doing exactly what you're complaining about. Nobody wants to talk about what happened 10 years ago. Yeah, no fucking shit. When you cover the news, people want to talk about what happened right now, but you're doing the same. Like, you want to not talk about now and instead talk about 8 years ago? Isn't that hypocritical? Law gives POTUS 60 to 90 days without Congress. Not true. Not if there is not an imminent threat. And this is the problem that the Trump administration has, and we'll get to this later. Like, it specifically says that there has to be an imminent threat. Nobody has explained what the imminent threat is. They've briefed Congress. Nobody from Congress can explain what the imminent threat is. In fact, the Trump administration now has settled on Trump felt like it. It was just his feeling that there was an imminent threat. Nobody said the laws changed since then. Listen, brother, when we went to war in the Middle East and we kept extending use of authorization for the war on terror, that authorization has expired. You need new authorization. It's not a law. It's granted by Congress. These are simple things that you could just look up on your own. And like, I know you think you fucking knocked it out of the park with that. And you and I probably agree that we shouldn't have been bombing the Middle East for all those years, and that the use of authorization, or the authorization of use of force or of war was unwarranted. I'd probably agree with you there, but these two things are different. And if you don't, right now it seems like you're grasping at straws. You don't want to admit that these two things are different. They are different. If you don't see that, then I'm afraid that you're the hypocrite here. But everything you're accusing other people of doing, you're doing right now. All right, but let's go back to the economy here.
Every second month now, pretty much throughout the president's term.
All right. So, economic, mostly disaster. And I want to go back in time. We ended on Friday talking about the similarities between 2008 and now. And just briefly to explain this, and I had a couple people reach out. They were like, man, I didn't really understand that stuff. So I'm going to revisit this and try and make it a little more palatable with help from some other people who make really, really good content. But essentially, what led to the financial collapse of 2008, and I'll see if I can do this in a very simple way. I don't have it. I should have brought something, but you have a mortgage. Let's say you have a mortgage, right? There's mortgages all over the place. And you take out a loan on your mortgage, and you take out that loan with a bank. The bank lends you the money for your mortgage. You pay that back. The bank is supposed to make money off of that interest. And that used to be the extent of it. And then at some point, they decided that they should turn these mortgages into an investment for other people, that the banks would allow other people's money to come in and to finance these mortgages. And that way the bank could create a whole new type of investment on top of mortgages. So just broadly, let's say it's Chase Bank, and Chase Bank has a million mortgages that individuals are paying. And Chase Bank takes portions of those mortgages, breaks them up into, let's say, 80,000 mortgages apiece, or let's say 100,000 to make it easy. Take 100,000 mortgages apiece, and they put them in a new investment, and it's called a collateralized debt obligation. It's just all of these together, and you are investing your money. The bank uses that money for mortgages to loan money out, and then you get a return on that investment. But instead of investing in one mortgage, you're collectively investing in all of the mortgages, which broadens the risk. So now if one mortgage fails, it doesn't really hurt you because there's 100,000 mortgages in there. And now it's a safer bet, but the returns are almost guaranteed because 100,000 mortgages aren't going to crash. Everybody always pays their mortgages. And you had all of these types of investments that originally were supposed to be good mortgages, people with good credit, with job verification, and with good payment history, and they package those all together, and these are basically untouchable investments, and you're going to get a return on that investment every single time. At some point, these banks started working with the ratings agencies and bribing the ratings agencies, and they convinced these rating agencies that when you had 100,000 mortgages, that bond itself is just never going to fail. So it doesn't have to be filled with only good mortgages. People with 700 plus FICO scores. Go ahead and include people with a 600 FICO score or a 550 FICO score. Go ahead and include adjustable rate mortgages, which is most of us have like a fixed rate mortgage, but it was really prevalent back then that adjustable rate mortgages, meaning that your mortgage rate is whatever the current terms are, right? So let's say you got in at 3.2%, but then economically things change and now mortgage rates are 6.8%. You're paying 6.8%. When it goes back down, you're going to pay 3.2% again. And the banks realized that these adjustable rate mortgages were very valuable to them because they would bring in more income as the rates fluctuated. And so they started paying more commission to people who sold adjustable rate mortgages. So then you have all these mortgage brokers out there, and they're actually even giving people with good credit scores adjustable rate mortgages, but it also allowed them to target lower income people, immigrants, and because there was almost virtually no regulation, they were able to get you a mortgage with no job verification, no income verification, and low credit scores. And you got this adjustable rate mortgage, and people who had never been able to get a house were just like, fuck it, this is cool. I can finally get a house. I can invest in my future. And so at some point, some of these bonds that were filled with like 90% AAA rated loans, at some point they became like 60, 70, 80% Bs and double Bs and all. And you had these shit bonds together. But they were still rated as AAA. So when people, when the mortgage rates went up dramatically, people's mortgages doubled and tripled, and the default rates went through the roof. People just couldn't afford their homes anymore. There was nothing they could do. They couldn't refinance. So literally all over the country, people were just abandoning their homes. And then the default rates skyrocketed on these bonds, and the banks did something really fucking gross. What the banks did is they realized too late that they were over leveraged. And there were some people that saw this coming, and so they went to the banks and they created something called a swap. And basically they were able to they go to the banks and they're like, I think that this bond you have is going to fail. So I'm going to bet that this bond fails, and you're paying insurance basically. And the bank has to pay you out if that bond fails. But if the bond doesn't fail, you're paying monthly premiums to the bank. And the banks were not well regulated, and they didn't really know what was going into these bonds. Nobody really cared because they just thought anything you package together as a bond is always going to be lucrative and it's never going to fail. And so the banks started taking on these swaps or these insurance contracts that were paying off anywhere from 10 to 1 to like 30 to 1. Meaning if you put $100,000 down, you might get 30x your money. And those are risky, but the banks were fine with it. And they were basically like, we'll sell any of these. This is free money for us. We're going to collect so much money on these insurance premiums, and these bonds are never going to fail. And then you started to see the bonds, like the default rates in these bonds, these individual mortgages started failing, and they were up to like 3% and 4% and 5%, and the banks didn't do anything. So these people with these bets started calling the banks, and while the default rates were going up, meaning like people were foreclosing on their homes, the banks got to value these insurance contracts. So even though more people were defaulting, the banks refused to change the valuation on the insurance. And there's a great part in The Big Short, if you've watched that, where Christian Bale's character is like, can you explain to me how I have an insurance on these bonds and the bonds are failing, but the insurance contract remains the same. How is that possible? They have to be tied together. And the guy's like, well, they're not tied together. And he's like, how? How is it possible? I bet against this bond failing. The bond is failing, and you are not adjusting. You're not adjusting that. You're not adjusting the value. So it's still worth this much. I need it to be worth this much, and I can't cash out. I'm still paying you premiums. And then quietly, what the banks did when they reached this, or when they realized this, is they started unloading those insurance premiums. They sold them off to other banks, and they lied to them, and they sold them off all over the world. They sold them off to Deutsche and to Credit Suisse, and they just started unloading these bonds. And the banks didn't change their valuation until they created a net short position, meaning that they themselves, after taking on these risky assessments, sold off all of these, or not risky assessments, risky contracts. They sold off all these contracts so that when they finally changed the value, they had reversed their position and they made money, or they severely limited the amount of damage that they were going to take. Now, very few banks got to a net short position. Most of them lost money, and then they went to the federal government and they said, "Hey, like we're going under. If you don't bail us out, we're going under because we have to pay this money out to these people who have these insurance contracts." There's nothing and we don't have the liquidity for that. We have nowhere near the amount of, and liquidity, for anybody who doesn't know, is just the amount of cash on hand. So they have to pay out these bets, and so they can't even loan against those bonds. And the government said, "Fine, we'll bail you out." And so the investors that bet against it all made a fortune. The banks got bailed out, and all the people who lost their homes just lost their homes. Everyday Americans lost their homes. And the reason that I bring that up is twofold. One, remember that this is what our government does. Two, our solution to that was regulation, so it didn't happen again. And three, and perhaps most importantly, is that we never stopped doing that. And four, just to explain why it crashed the world's economy, is because these investments in mortgage bonds, it wasn't like people who were specialists were the ones investing in these mortgage bonds. These were in everybody's 401ks. They were in every pension fund. Anybody who wasn't trading on their own, who were trading through an investment firm that was managing their portfolio, they were in everybody's portfolio. And so when those crashed, everybody lost money, not just in the United States, across the world. We had sold these to everybody. We at times, like there were bets on bets on bets on bets on bets. And that's why the whole economy crashed around the world. It wasn't just housing, it's because we took these bonds and we put them into everything else. And so hopefully that's like a good explanation. I hopefully you guys get that now. Like, keep that in mind, that the main thing you need to remember is that people made risky loans, banks made risky loans, and in order to protect themselves, they convinced everybody in the country to put those loans in their portfolio so that if it ever did crash, and it did, the government would have no choice but to bail them out. Because the government then is stuck with this decision. Do we let the whole fucking thing crumble and all these people who had nothing to do with it, who just invested their 401ks, do we let them suffer too? Or do we bail them out and try and recoup that value? So the government's hand was forced. So remember that that's what they did. And if you don't understand all of this other stuff, do we lose TikTok on that? If you don't remember the details, just remember that what these banks and the billionaire class always wants to do is take your investments and put them in everything. And that way they are protected, so they can do awful shit and get protected by the government. Now, Elizabeth Warren, Republicans, Democrats, Elizabeth Warren left her job at Harvard after the financial collapse and went and joined Congress. And one of the things that she did was help create the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this bureau was a way to interact between you, the consumer, each of us, and the banks that we deal with to protect us. And if they fucked us over, we could claw that money back from them and return it to the consumer. And we put heavy regulation on all these banks, tons and tons of regulation. On Friday, I showed you videos from Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. And Jamie Dimon now is pointing at cryptocurrency, and he's saying, look, you gave us heavy regulation. The government put heavy regulation on us so that we couldn't risk everybody's portfolios, so that we couldn't destroy the economy with bad loans. But these crypto companies are doing these same types of bad loans, and these private equity companies have the same type of bad loans, but there's no regulation. And stupidly, these banks now, because they see dollar signs and they don't think forward enough, stupidly, these banks got involved with private equity and with crypto. And so now the banks and the private equity people are all in this together, and we have mountains of bad loans that are about to go belly up. And we're going to see 2008 again. And the reason I think it's important to talk about this is I'm not trying to fearmonger. I hope everybody talks about this because there's not a lot we can do about it except for to make sure that coming out on the other side of this, the right people are taken care of, not the crooks. And Donald Trump will take care of the crooks. We already know that he's taking care of crooks. He pardons people all the fucking time who have run Ponzi schemes or have committed fraud, investor fraud. He does it all the time. And this administration, full of billionaires, will take care of each other. That's why these midterms are so very important. You need not just the House. You need the House and you need the Senate. And you need progressives, not corporate Democrats. You need progressives in there who will stand with the people. And if you're going to vote for a Republican, please vote for a fucking libertarian like Thomas Massey if you have that opportunity. Somebody who also doesn't want to bail out these big banks because everybody else in the Republican Party will. All right. So I want to get to 2008. I want to go back to 2008, and I want to show you some clips from 2008, and then I'm going to show you some clips from now, and you tell me the difference. I don't know if I see one. First is Jim Cramer. This is perhaps what made Jim Cramer the most famous. Jim Cramer is on CNBC. He's Squawk Box. He works for CNBC, but his main job is to be a cheerleader for Wall Street. And when Wall Street needs a stock to be pumped, they call Jim Cramer. And Jim Cramer goes on CNBC, and he gives them exactly the talking points that Wall Street gave him so that he can make sure that people buy these stocks. Let me check messages real quick before we go. And then just a reminder, guys, this is going to, I'm going to get locked into this, and I'll try and remember to read messages. But if you can help us knock out our gift goal by the end of the live, that'd be greatly appreciated. We have like an hour and, 45 minutes left. And I'll try and get to him as we go. Jen will definitely be guilting you in the chat there. Leslie said, I watched very little politics this weekend, too. I haven't felt this much sorrow since he won. I save it for you and Jen to get my info from. What's up, Jen?
I was just going to mention if we wanted to do a dollar stream, we could probably make a decent dent in that gift goal. We're a little ways away. So,
thank you. All right, so here's cheerleader Jim Cramer as Wall Street starts falling apart, and watch Jim Cramer lose his mind.
Sort of starts out down a little bit, but nothing to worry about. Boring summer fight. Almost, a day we haven't had in a long time. Just not exciting. Then all of a sudden S&P says, ooh, we're worried about bear. Bear goes down, market goes down. And then all of a sudden things kind of calm down. Bear comes out and says, hey, we're okay, guys, we're okay, everything's fine. Bear goes back up to neutral, market's only down 20. Then Bear comes out and says, oh, worst bond market in 22 years.
Now this is Bear Stearns, who completely collapsed. And you can see this collapse here. And what Jim Cramer does is freaks the fuck out and blames who? Not the bankers, not the stock traders, the media for accurately reporting on the news.
And that's where we are right now. The market's down 100 points.
Memo
How
to
do you
Bear
trade
Stearns.
this?
Memo to Bear Stearns. You got to adopt a Henry Ford attitude here, which is never explain, never complain. And they didn't do that. You keep your mouth shut.
It's weird to hear him say it. What they should have done is not been transparent with the American people. Transparency can cause your stock price to drop. That's what's wrong with our fucking economy. It's all hype. It's all vibes. So they particularly like, and when you're in politics too, it's the same thing. Don't tell the people the truth because the stock market might collapse. We can't have the stock market collapse. That's so very important. And then you create these bubbles, and when it crashes fucking hard.
During this period, you don't say a thing because you're going to say something
But
that
then
people
we
don't like.
complain and we say, hey, come on, guys.
Rich people crushing this economy. Preach, thanks, Illusion.
Keep your mouth shut.
Come out
because,
here and talk about your
you
exposure.
you speak softly and you wait to that level where you think the shorts have.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one from you, Legendary. Look how emotional you're getting when challenged. Why do you guys all think like getting emotional is like an issue? Yeah, I'm passionate about this. I don't know why you guys all think like you lose the argument and they're like, you got emotional. W me. I hope I hope I helped you come. Maybe you can tell your friends that you've made somebody emotional on the internet. I hope that you secured your W for today.
Overdone the stock, and then you do what Dick Fold did in 1998. You pick up the phone to guys like me and you say, 32 bid, 1 million, and then you get whacked and you come back and say 31 bid for 2 million. They're not doing that. That inspires more fear. I don't want to create.
What he's talking about right now is that when the markets collapse, he needs rich people to go in and artificially stop the crash and buy these stocks before they go down. What he's explaining right now is market manipulation, and he's upset in 2008 that people didn't come in and manipulate the markets.
Here, I like Bear Stearns very much, but I think that at this stage, this is not a good call. They shouldn't have done it, and they should have just said, you know what, we're doing well, and don't say another thing. Just don't say it, because it does not inspire confidence to have 10 headlines coming over about what to do. I don't like it.
All right, I hear you. Now, I still, though, you know, when we said, hey,
look,
let's
the Dow can rally.
You-
Where it's at now. Like, it just, as he's talking, it just keeps going down.
We've seen the Dow
No, I
rally.
know. I'm not even, but I mean, it's just interesting, this bigger.
Well, this is about Bernanke. This is about Bernanke. He has to be
now we're going to blame Ben Bernanke, who is the Fed chair. Who keeps blaming the Fed chair for all our problems? It's almost like we've seen this game before. It's the Fed chair. It's the Fed chair's fault. He raised rates. Yeah. It's anybody but the bankers, anybody but the stockbrokers, anybody but the institutional investors. It's always somebody else. They told the truth. They shouldn't have done that. And then Ben Bernanke, why didn't he bail us out?
Paul, forget the investors. The investors are going to do. If Bernanke listens, Bernanke needs to open the discount window. That's how.
Oh, sweetheart, we're not blaming Trump for this. MAGA, you guys might want to bounce. This is going to be way over your fucking head. I'm not blaming Trump for this. Specifically, not blaming Trump for this. I am blaming him for pardoning criminals, which he and he alone bears responsibility for because he's the one that does the pardons. But no, this has more to do with deregulation and, or I guess a lack of regulation in private equity and crypto. You'll figure. Well, I would say you'll figure that out later, but I think this is going to be way above your head, MAGA.
Bad things are out there. Bernanke needs to focus on this. Alan Greenspan told everyone to take a teaser rate and then raise the rate 17 times. And Bernanke is being an academic. It is no time to be an academic. It is time to.
It is no time to be educated. It is time to be emotional and fix the rates so that my friends who are losing money in the stock market stop calling me. It is no time for academics and economics. It is a time for throwing money at rich people so they don't lose their money.
Get on the Bear Stearns call. Listen, open the darn Fed window. He has no idea how bad it is out there. He has no idea. He has no idea.
Kramer.
I have talked to the heads of almost every single one of these firms in the last 72 hours, and he has no idea what it's like out there.
Right. I feel like I didn't get that emotional after watching Kramer lose his mind here. Jocelyn said Dollar Train. Sully says Antifa dues. Thank you very much.
None! And Bill Poole has no idea what it's like out there. My people have been in this game for 25 years, and they are losing their jobs, and these firms are going to...
His people are the ones who caused this, right? He's screaming at everybody. He has no idea what it's like. Yeah, your people were getting filthy fucking rich, selling risky loans to school teachers and firemen and police unions It's saying that these are safe investments. And now those same people that they sold these risky investments to are calling them pissed off, saying, you fucked us, you lied to us. And he's like, you have no idea how hard it is to get called out on your shit. Why is everybody talking about this? What about my good friends at Wall Street?
Go out of business and he's nuts. They're nuts. They know nothing.
Kramer.
I have not seen it like this since I went 5 bid for 500,000 shares of Citigroup when I got hit in 1990. This is a different kind of market, and the Fed is asleep.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Bill Poole is a shame. He's shameful.
Hold on.
Again, the Fed didn't manipulate the ratings. The Fed wasn't the one saying go out and sell these mortgage-backed securities. The Fed didn't give people these insurance contracts that paid out at 30-1 when the mortgage-backed securities failed. The Fed didn't do any of this. Why won't you fix it for us? We fucked this whole thing up. Why won't you fix it? It's not fair. Everybody makes mistakes.
He ought to go and read the accredited home document. At least I read the darn thing.
Hold on. I know you're passionate, and I hear you, but at the same time, a lot of people are saying this is, yes, there's certain types of mortgages that aren't available. There are all sorts of issues.
You can't get a darn loan if you're rich like me.
But Kramer, if he did what you said, which seems to me from the way you just explained yourself.
Cut the rate.
He can't even hold it together through this whole thing.
Okay,
cut the rate.
If he comes out next week and cuts rates, relieve the pressure. You're going to have, that's going to cause Armageddon.
No, we have Armageddon. I wouldn't try to cause it. We have Armageddon. In the fixed income markets, we have Armageddon.
No, but that's not what they say.
We have Armageddon.
They say, even when I've talked to a couple bank CEOs, they don't say it's Armageddon.
Well,
they say it's repricing. They're very firm about that even
great.
now.
Okay, well, let them be calm and then have them call me.
When she's talking about repricing, what she's talking about, he's saying it's Armageddon. He's actually right here. This was Armageddon. When she's talking about repricing, she's talking about like that they're repricing these swaps, and they're pricing them accurately. And the banks, once again, that they had secured a position with themselves to alleviate as much damage as they possibly could take. Then they priced this accurately, and the bottom fell out. Had they priced them accurately when they should have been priced, you would have seen some banks fail. But the damage would have been limited. But because the banks cared about their investors before everybody else and before the American economy, they basically hid that this was a problem until they could create a position. But eventually they had to be honest. Eventually they had to then reprice this, and this is what caused this collapse here. So for a lot of people, it did seem like Jim Cramer. He's not brilliant. Jim Cramer's a mouthpiece. So this did come out of the blue for him.
Me on the way home like they do every night and tell me, Kramer, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to help us? Are you going to help us? Are you going to stand on the sideline like everybody else and say that it's fine? Will somebody come on TV and tell the truth about how bad it is?
But a lot of people say, these same people say, it's not Ben Bernanke and the rate that matters. The bond market
That's
now
wrong.
is completely
It is the rate.
separate from
It's entirely
the
the
bond
rate.
market is trading
No, it's
separately from the
entirely
rate.
Look, we'll spend billions in Iraq to build homes. We are going to have thousands of people. We have thousands of people losing their homes right now. 14 million people took a mortgage in the last 3 years. 7 million of them took teaser rates or took piggyback rates. They will lose their homes. This is crazy.
Yes.
I am sorry to be upset.
Maybe we shouldn't have offered those teaser rates or adjustable rate mortgages. Maybe that was the problem. The crocodile tears. What about these poor people? Yeah, you preyed on them, and now you preyed on them and made billions, and then you want the government to bail you out of your predatory lending. By the way, this also drove up the price of houses. So these people that were getting these adjustable rate mortgages, because we were handing out mortgages like hotcakes, it drove up the price. Because there were bidding wars on every house. So people that were getting into a house, they're watching this price go up and up, and they're like, I got to get in now. I got to get in now. So people were just, a lot of these people, no down payment at all. They're just like, I got to get in now or I'll never be able to afford a house. Rates are low. These mortgage brokers are like, rates are low. They'll never be, this is the best time to buy. Even though if it seems like this house has doubled in value since last year, get in now, get in now, get in now. And everybody was getting in, and they were just, those mortgage brokers just cashing checks, cashing checks, cashing checks. And it's similar to what we saw in COVID. You just see the price skyrocket because access to money was too easy.
Said about it, but you have to understand what they're saying to me off the record before I come in here every night and every day, and what I hear from these blowhard managers who act like, call someone for heaven's sake. Go call.
Am I going to talk about corporate personhood and the Friedman Doctrine? Not today.
Someone. I worked at fixed income at Goldman Sachs. This is not the time to be complacent.
All right.
I mean, darn, sometimes I wish I didn't know anybody so I could just sit here and say, you know what? Just go buy some Washington Mutual and take that yield. Unfortunately, I know too many people and I'm too darn old.
You are 62.
I've
Actually,
been around
63.
for too long. I mean, look, I got to tell you, he has got to listen to. He's got to call somebody. Bernanke has to call someone.
He is.
He just has to call.
I can't believe he's just sitting there. in his little guild room.
We'll stop it there. For anybody wanting to know what whoever asked about the Friedman Doctrine, it basically says that businesses, like, their sole responsibility is the profits of the shareholders. And so, and you do see that specifically with these banks. They don't care about you. They care about their shareholders. So, but we're not going to talk about that a lot. It seems like he's crying. I don't know. It was, we didn't even have 480p back then, so it's hard to see. But then I want to show you this just because it's important. This is Cramer talking about Bear Stearns. Before Bear Stearns, like, I think this was maybe like 2 or 3 days before Bear Stearns actually collapsed. I don't know if I have the date on here. It was just a couple days before Bear Stearns collapsed. But here was Jim Cramer. Should have seen what real economists were seeing in real time. And the reason Bear Stearns stock was collapsing is because most people saw this, but not Jim Cramer, because he works. And remember this about CNBC. Remember this about Fox Business. Remember this about any of these shows. They work for this for Wall Street. Their job is to spin things to always look the best that they possibly can.
Peter writes, should I be worried about Bear Stearns in terms of liquidity and get my money out of there? No, no, no. Bear Stearns is fine. Do not take your money out. This is real. Look, if there's one takeaway other than a plus 400 somewhere, Bear Stearns is not in trouble. I mean, if anything, they're more likely to be taken over. Don't move your money from Bear. That's just being silly. Don't be silly.
Anybody who took that 6 days later, anybody who took that advice 6 days later.
Okay, just so you get a sense of what's causing the agony by this point, I know you've been talking about it.
By the way, that is Aaron Burnett. Anybody's wondering.
It's financials led by Bear Stearns after what essentially is a bailout from the Fed. Bear Stearns shares are down 90% this morning, and it's not just Bear. Pretty much every single bank is plunging in early trade this morning. Lehman, which is very similar to Bear and its reliance on fixed income, is down nearly 30%. You have big names like Goldman Sachs down 8%, Citigroup down 8%. So it is pain across the board this morning, and as you know, it all emanates from the...
All right. Legendary. Man, brother, you are desperate for a win. I explained this earlier. You're a bad listener. It says, want to talk about today's news, not 2011. Well, this is... and then said, but proceeds to talk 2008 ad nauseum. Both events relate to the country's future. Thought I found a reasonable lib. Well, you compared two things that weren't the same. I'm comparing two things that are the same. If you would have listened, I said, I'm going to show you 2008 to explain why you should be worried about now, because they are the same principles. And now, good timing for that comment, let's move into the future, because we just watched Jim Cramer lose his fucking mind. We explained what happened with people taking debt, mortgages in this case, and packaging them together as one investment, and then ignoring the failure rate of those investments, and then people coming in and betting against those investments and causing an economic collapse because these investments were put into everybody's portfolios. So now that we've explained that in 2008, and we just showed you Jim Cramer saying everything's fine, everything's fine, I want to get to today. This is, I forget his name, it might show up here. This is a company called Blue Owl. And this is the co-president here of Blue Owl. They are a private equity fund, and they are running into a problem too, because the private equity funds that they have a bunch of collateralized loan obligations, which are the same, right? It's debt. In the collateralized loan in 2008 was the mortgage. The collateral, or the thing that you loan against, is the mortgage. Right? And then you packaged all these mortgage loans together into one fund. Now what we have is we have these private equity companies, and they're doing it with mortgages, but they're also doing it with investments into AI, SaaS, which is like sales software, tech companies. And they've taken these individual loans that they're making out to tech companies or whatever businesses, and they're packaging those individual loans together as one collateralized loan obligation. But the collateral in this case isn't physical collateral. It is the stock price or the valuation of the companies that they're investing in. So if these companies go bust, not only can you potentially blow up your fund, but you also don't have collateral that you own anymore, because the company was just a company. You don't have access. You don't have the assets of the company. You don't have the underlying value of the structure of the home. And this Blue Owl here, they are in trouble. They're in trouble, and they're limiting the amount that people can take out of their company. They're called redemptions. So people are looking at their risky loans, and people need money. People all over the world have liquidity problems, and they're seeing these VCs that have high values, and they're looking at the economy, and they're saying, okay, we think we've peaked. We think the value of these funds is going to drop. So we'd like to take our money out now while it's high, because we don't want to be around for this impending collapse, which everybody kind of is just agreed is about to happen. And what you have when you start to get agreement and sentiment from the public, where everybody's kind of agreeing that this is about to happen, people panic and they start selling. And so what Blue Owl has done is they have said, because they are a private fund and they don't operate like a bank. Remember, we talked on Friday about like how the bank has FDIC insurance, but the bank also had regulations. They have to be able to pay out. You have to be able to take out your money when you want to. These private funds who don't operate as banks, because they're a totally different entity somehow, they're loaning money just like a bank, but they have a different set of rules. They're allowed to limit if people take money out. And so Blue Owl has said, sorry guys, you can't take your money out. It has to stay in, because if it doesn't stay in, our fund will collapse. And so now there's people in this Blue Owl fund who are like, I want my money. And they're like, sorry, write it out. And here's what he has to say. Like, it's going to be the same Jim Cramer. It's all fine.
Understood. You were doing it for to save administrative costs? I mean,
why merge it?
Yeah.
There is a defined life of the fund.
Right.
At some point in time, if we don't take it public, we could wind the fund down. We don't have to do anything anytime soon.
I know Leslie's got a follow-up. Sorry, Leslie?
Oh, I was just curious. So a lot of the headlines were about investors not being able to redeem as a result of this merger. Were you getting calls from investors seeking to redeem? I mean, was that something that you received an onslaught of concerns about, or is it something
we haven't received an onslaught. I think there's just sorry.
Go ahead.
I think there's just some confusion.
Yeah,
We've done this twice earlier this year. It's gone very smoothly. We gave the investors, it's subject to their vote, the option if they would like to roll into the public company. And based on where it's
So you can't take your money out. You can roll it into the public company.
trading now and all the noise, we decided it's not the right time.
Yeah.
We had not previously been getting calls. In fact, we met every single redemption last quarter. So it wasn't a question of us being forced.
But now you can't.
Pushed to do it. This was a preordained timetable set many years ago, and we thought it was the right time. It's turned out not to be the right time.
All right. Let's see. I want this one. Let me see how long this one is. I can't remember how long this is. Yeah,
From December
it's 3 minutes. This will help. In case we haven't been clear on the Great Recession of 2007, here's something with pictures. MAGA, you might be able to get this. Legendary Perry, it is crazy how bad you are at this. I didn't say everybody pays their mortgage. I said that's what they said. They said the loans weren't risky because everybody pays their mortgage. Brother, you're desperate for a W right now. Just listen, learn. Just learn. That was my criticism of them. That the reason they took out these insurance contracts that paid out at 20 and 30 to 1 is because they didn't believe there was any risk, which is why they paid out at 20 to 30 to 1, because they told all their investors and they believed that everybody pays their mortgage. Don't worry about it. as mortgage default rates were going up, they were out there publicly saying, yeah, we think this is contained at 2%. And then 6 months later, we think it's contained at 4%. And then 3 months later, we think it's contained at 6%. And then it hit 8% and it was Fucksville. You've got to listen, man. Like, don't be so desperate to get a win here. Like, I appreciate your super chats. It hasn't gone super well for you, but you're not even quoting me accurately. Of course, not everybody pays their mortgages when they're adjustable rate mortgages. When the economy goes south, more people stop paying their mortgage. That's how it works. It was a bad bet that the banks took. That's not what I was saying. That's what they said. Anyways, here's some graphics for you. This might help you figure it out.
2007 to June 2.
Took office in 2009. These were not Obama years. This is 2007 and 2008. Obama won in 2008. He took office in 2009. Let's try again. Before we blame presidents, I see saying Clinton started subprime mortgages. This happens under administrations, but the reason this happens is because banks have lobbyists, and lobbyists write our laws, and lobbyists always ask for deregulation. And what the rich have convinced people in this country ever since Ronald Reagan is that they are somehow the victims, and that they have too many rules, and then if you just remove the rules, they will make everything better. And so this is what happens. You have deregulation under Bush. You have deregulation a little bit under Clinton, but more so under Bush. And you see the markets explode. And all the Republicans point at the market that's exploding and they go, see what deregulation does? Yes, deregulation always leads to very quick growth. And then that quick growth, because it's not regulated, is they overvalue things. People get extended beyond their means. Wages don't keep up. Earning doesn't keep up. Inevitably, we have something like war or famine or a natural disaster, and people wind up spending too much on credit cards and their month-to-month expenses. We get to that point, and then the market crashes and it fucks everybody. And that's where we were in 2007, and that's where we are now. 60% of Americans are carrying credit card debt. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and also carrying debt. And that's what deregulation does. That's why when you look at the first Trump presidency, and you can even look at the recovery during the Biden administration, because we didn't do a lot of regulation and we didn't undo Trump's tax policy, you saw like kind of explosive growth. And you even saw in 2019, it leveled out and it looked like we were headed to a recession. And then COVID hit, so it dropped. So nobody thought that was the recession. They're like, that was COVID. And then we injected a bunch of money into the economy and it recovered, right? But the problem is we didn't necessarily get that money back. The one thing you can say about Obama that he did really well is they did bail out these banks and they bailed out a lot of people, but they required repayment. They required that these banks pay them back with interest. And Biden didn't really do that with the COVID stimulus. It was like, oh, we'll stimulate and it'll come back in taxes. But then Trump comes in and we cut taxes, so the return on that investment's not going to be the same way that it was with Obama. And that's really what we should have done and what we should do with all investments. That's what China does. Trump's even done that a little bit with like NVIDIA. But anyway. Yeah, in some ways we do need to be more like China. In some ways we do. Like China is handling this much better than we are currently. And that's a problem with your like red, white, and blue only brain. You think that America is just always going to be the greatest and that you shouldn't learn from people who do things better than you. I'm a streamer. There's a lot of people who do this better than me. I learn from them. Even if I don't like them, I can learn from conservatives. I can learn from people on the left. China is handling this better. China's in a much better position to deal with rising oil prices. Why? Because they've invested heavily in renewable energy. So some of the cost burden is going to be businesses, but not so much like residential homeowners there in China. It won't hit their population the same way that it will hit our population because they have access to renewable energy. And how did they get access to renewable energy? The government gave grants to these companies to go start, solar companies and wind companies. And when they started making profits, these companies, some of those profits were funneled back into the government from China, and then China uses that money to invest in their next venture. So China, when they invest, they get a return on investment. In America, the way that conservatives love to invest is they do tax cuts, and then they claim that that money will come back in the form of taxes. But obviously it doesn't work, right? Because we keep running at deficits every fucking year. So yeah, we should learn from China. If the government is going to use my taxpayer money and your taxpayer money, why should we not expect them to get a return on that investment? Why are you capitalists obsessed? Like, that's what capitalism is. It is fucking crazy how you guys beat off to capitalism without knowing what it is. And when the government tries to do capitalism, which is they take capital and they invest it, and then they get a return on investment for that capital, suddenly you're like, what the fuck? Oh, that's socialism. It's the same principle, right? It's just you don't like it when the government does it. But if we're going to bail people out, why would we not get a return? That was a smart thing that Obama did. It was smart that Obama said, if we're going to give you money, banks who just fucked the entire economy, you've got to give some back. Some of that's got to come back with interest. And you know who was crying about that at the time? Republicans. That's socialism. It's the only difference. You can call it socialism, that's fine, but why is it okay for private equity and private business to invest and get a return, but not the government? Isn't that weird how you love capitalism unless it's the government doing it, which is then you call socialism? But that's what China did, and that's why they're going to handle all these rising prices for oil better than we will.
Homes. Since the foreclosed houses were now worth less money, financial institutions lost money too.
Not everything's about money, feller. Some things is about just saying America's the best all the time and hating China. It's not all about money. It's about my feelings. Yeah, we know, bud. We know. Everything's star-spangled fucking awesome for you. I wake up, I do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I masturbate immediately. And I don't care if Trump drags us into war. I don't care if he fucks the economy. I don't care about any of that. I'm just going to be proud to be an American no matter what. And I'll support this administration's dumb fucking moves no matter what. It's about money to me. It is. If we're going to give the government money, they need to be good stewards of that money. If it's not about money to you, I don't know what the fuck it is about you then. But didn't Trump run on this? Wasn't that the whole point of Doge? I bet you were beating off to Elon posters the entire time with Doge, but now it's not about money. Now that he's fucking it up, it's about patriotism now. Earlier, when we were cutting money from poor people and people in other countries who are dying, that was about money. We can't afford it. But now that we're fucking this up under Trump and we're bombing Iran at billions of dollars a day and tanking our economy, it's about patriotism. It's really tacky for you to bring up finances now. Isn't that weird? How when you're fucking over poor people, it's about money. But then when you're fucking over the entire economy, it's about patriotism. Maybe that helped with pictures there. Sometimes that helps. I've just studied this for a long time, and so it's even then I'm learning new stuff almost every time. But I want to talk about how this is manifesting today. Again, it's not always about housing, but here's NPR. This is Louise Kelly. Remember that it doesn't have to be about housing. It's about loans and it's about debt. And so whether it's housing debt or loan debt, or it could be corporate or commercial real estate debt. These companies now that operate outside of the banks, places like BlackRock, places like Blue Owl that we just showed, they are operating in the same way that the banks operated pre-2008, and there is virtually no regulation for them. And the banks, because they couldn't operate in the same way, they invested in these private equity companies. The banks are like, we can't do this ourselves because there's laws. But since there's no laws for these private equity companies that force them to play by our rules, banks actually took their own capital and put it in these private equity companies. And so now you have literally the exact same problem that we tried to avoid in 2008, but due to deregulation or lack of regulation, we have recreated the worst parts of the bank and given them their own industry and go ahead, crash this shit again.
mentioned the 2008 financial crisis a couple of times. What is it you see that feels the same as 2008? What is it you see that maybe is not parallel? Start with what's the same.
Andrew Bailey, who runs the Central Bank of England, said anyone...
And don't worry, I know these are women, but she's just the president of the budget lab at Yale. Just one of the most respected think tanks on earth. I know she's a woman. Sorry, Republicans, but...
Watching these two particular bankruptcies, alarm bells should be going off if they were anywhere near the two
bankruptcies that she's talking about, and this was they were flagged by England's Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, was First Brands, which is an automotive parts supplier here, and they basically got all their money from private equity, and then Tricolor, which is they gave out, I know this is going to sound shocking, subprime loans for cars. And then you know what they did? This is going to sound familiar too. They took these car loans, subprime car loans with adjustable rates for people with bad credit. And then they used those car loans, they packaged them together, and they sold them as separate investments. And then when they thought, we need more money, they took some of those loans. So they took, let's say that there's three different groups or tranches of loans. And they just kind of shuffled them. And then they broke them out into thirds again. And they created 3 new investment opportunities. But those investment opportunities all included loans that they already had taken bets on. So some of these cars, when they went through with Tricolor, which looks like tricolor, but it's pronounced Tricolor, when they got into their investments, they realized that there were cars that they had given loans to funded by private equity, and they had then loaned against those loans 3, 4, and 5 times. If you watch The Big Short and you know about the housing market, those were called synthetic CDOs. So you had the CDOs, which were all the mortgages. Let's just say it's this, right? Let's, what do I have here? Pack of gum. It's my pack of gum. There's all the gum inside of there. Okay? So one piece of gum, that's your mortgage, or in this case, an auto loan. And I put it in this box, and I go to with the mortgages, I go to the bank, and I'm like, hey, give me a loan on all of this together. And since it's more than one piece of gum, it's less risky. And in this case, it's an auto loan. So I take this and I say, here's now my CDO, my collateralized debt obligation or loan obligation. And this is the collateral, all this gum here. If the loan fails, I can sell this gum to somebody else and I can get my money back. Well, then what they do is they create a synthetic CDO. So they say, this investment for this pack of gum and all these together, it's a safe investment, and I'd like to bet on the person who bet against it. So somebody says, I think that pack of gum in this case is going to lose all of its value, and I'm going to bet that this pack of gum is going to lose all its value. And the bank's like, cool. If it happens to lose all its value, we will pay you off at 10 to 1. So let's say you paid $1 for that, or it's worth $1. If it fails, if it loses all its value, the bank is going to give you $10. But because the bank is going to give you $10 for that, if that fails, in the meantime, every month that it doesn't fail, you're going to give the bank 10 cents. So every month you're paying 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents to the bank. The bank's getting that money. Then the bank's like, let's do this. What if we allowed our investors to bet against the person who made the bet? So now you say, I'm not betting against the pack of gum. I'm betting against that guy who took the bet at 10 to 1. And the bank's like, cool. Now we've doubled our risk. So we'll give you 20 to 1 that his bet doesn't fail. So the bank's like, we don't think it's going to fail. And now if that investment fails, the person who bet on the bet gets 20 to 1. So they're going to get $20 if this fails. But again, they're going to have to pay every month. So now they're paying 20 cents every month that it doesn't fail. And then the bank's like, what if we let you bet on the person who bet on the person? And now the bank says, you can bet on the person who bet on the person, and we'll give you 30 to 1 odds. And you're like, fucking awesome. And the bank's like, great. But every month that it doesn't fail, you have to give us 30 cents. And they're like, cool. And the bank's looking at this revenue like it's unlimited. There were some of these bonds that they had bet like 10 times. And so what we're talking about here with Yale Budget Lab is an auto loan packaged together with other auto loans that were packaged together so that it was less risky, because it takes 8% of those auto loans to default before it loses its value. And then they created these synthetic bets on top of that. See how it's exactly the same thing? And who did it? Not the banks, because we regulated the banks. So what did the banks do? What did the billionaires do? We're going to create these new things called private equity. And they're definitely not banks. They're going to take private investment and they're going to invest it however they want. And because they're not a bank, they're not required to operate under these same rules. And then you see people that have the most money in private equity: Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and they all go on to Joe Rogan and they talk about it's not fair that this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who's supposed to go after banks, is looking at our company. What are we doing wrong? Well, you're a private equity investor. You might have your own companies, but really what you don't like is you're a private equity investor and they're trying to apply the same rules to banks to you, and you don't like that. So you go on Rogan, you convince everybody that CFPB is bad, then you give Elon Musk the job to help the government function more smoothly, and they just get rid of the CFPB. And now all of these billionaires are operating and able to just like pile on money. That's why the billionaires' wealth has been accelerating. It's not that they're bringing in more money, because they're not. It's because they loan against their stock, and they loan against their stock, and then they collect other stock, and then they loan against that stock. And when they loan against that stock, because of their name and because of their friends that are involved, the stock goes up, and they have all these companies, and they've loaned against their own stock on all these companies, and it's layer on 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 layer, and it's all bullshit. Twitter is the perfect example. Elon Musk paid $43 billion for Twitter with $0. He leveraged his own stock in Tesla to purchase Twitter. And if his Tesla stock dives, Twitter, the people that he bought Twitter from, get to collect. They can collect on that money anytime they want. But if it dives, they're going to come and say, we need that $43 billion now. And then Elon's fucked. So what does he do? He gets all of his friends to keep investing in Tesla. You have Tesla do their marketing, and Tesla's this $350 stock that should be like a $20 stock, but it's so speculative, and then they just keep loaning against that. Our entire fucking economy, like with all these tech companies, is just fucking Ponzi scheme after Ponzi scheme after Ponzi scheme. And they learned from the financial collapse in 2008 how to do this. They just had to move away from banks so they could do it. And now they have all the control. They own all the most important companies. And when the collapse comes, what are we going to do? They're going to come to you. They're going to come to the American people. They're going to come to the government, and they're going to say, if you let us fail, millions of people will lose their jobs. Paramount's going to be gone. CBS is going to be gone. You have to bail us out or we're fucked. That's why all of these billionaires right now are so dead set on accumulating assets, because it gives them leverage when the collapse comes. It gives them leverage to be bailed out, and they all know it. And if you're still a MAGA Republican at this point, you are just carrying water for the people who are fucking you and will fuck you in the future. And I don't know if you'll learn your lesson, because you'll blame billionaires and you won't recognize that your party got co-opted by those billionaires and let this happen. And it's true, Democrats have let this happen too. It's very true. But nobody ever liked the Trump administration.
2008 financial crisis, we are starting to see a very significant rise in securitization and exactly the same kind of slicing and dicing of literally everything. Think car loans, think leases on AI data centers, think bills that are owed from plastic surgery patients, literally everything, and turning it into allegedly relatively safe slices of financial securities. But the other piece is there too. We're also starting to see really significant lending, and it's happening very substantially in these private credit markets.
So, to things that should be different, should feel different from 2008, there were all these regulations and changes that went into effect to make sure we never had a meltdown like that.
Totally.
Why are
Real quick, I think OCD Tileworks said, when I'm going to finish too quick, I think of Jim Cramer yelling about stocks. Thanks, Damien. Appreciate that. Lee, thank you for the daily Antifa dues, and Pink for the dollar train. No, Jen, not a hard stop at 1. We'll go like 15 minutes over.
these firms largely exempt from all those changes?
A lot is different. So, in fact, one of the things that is different, as you point out, is that in response to the financial crisis, we did a lot of regulating. And the result of that regulating was that traditional financial institutions, so your bank, is doing a lot less of this risky lending than they were doing historically. Coming in to fill that void are these private credit firms. And the argument the private credit firms are making about their business model is actually they are better positioned to do this type of lending.
Yeah. And that's what they
We've
have
mentioned
said
the
over and
2008
over and over again. But it's just rich people finding a loophole to fuck us once again. What was that? Jen said, tech guys are fucking up because they are making their products so unlikable that people are going to be okay seeing them die. Paramount, CBS, etc. Yeah, look, I would love to see a regression for our reliance on tech. To be honest, that would be great. Okay. I'll update that in a second. I think we're like 160 short on the gift goal. We got about 45 minutes left. So you guys can help us knock that out. That'd be great. I see a lot of new people subscribing today. Welcome if you're new here. Just so you know, we're entirely crowdfunded here. We get virtually no ad revenue from YouTube and Twitch just because it's a political channel. We don't take advertisers. We will always be crowdfunded. So the ways that you can help us out, obviously engaging in our content is super helpful. We have paid memberships every month, which give you access to members-only events. Like tonight, we're going to watch the movie 2073 together in our Discord, and then just daily donations. So if you can help us out in any way, depending on what platform you're on, that would be greatly appreciated. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how Jen gets paid. That's how I get paid. And then that's how we pay all our fucking bills that are getting way too expensive. So I appreciate that in advance. Let's do this. This is probably going to get flagged. I'm going to skip it. I think I explained it already. But if you don't understand like the layers that we talked about, like when I was doing the gum analogy, I'll show you this. You can go look. You can look this up yourself. I'm just worried about copyright.
Okay, so here's how a synthetic CDO.
So you can go here. This is on YouTube. If you go to The Big Short, Selena Gomez teaches CDOs scene. They use blackjack in this case to explain how this, like the lending on top of lending on top of lending works. So go check that out on YouTube if you want to learn about that. But I just don't want to get copyright stricken. I think it's probably one of the best ones. They did such a good job in Big Short making really complex things simple. So, and if you're not new here, you know that's my favorite movie of all time. Okay. Let's talk about the market's reaction now.
As the U.S. markets open,
with Iran, and then we'll see how this administration now plans on addressing this. So, on top of all this other shit, the markets now are going to slide, and the longer this war keeps going, the more we're going to see the markets be very, very volatile. And the longer that this goes on and the more people are looking at the market dropping, the more people are going to panic sell. And if you panic sell, then that will drop the stocks, these other stocks. And then if that gains enough momentum, catastrophe. There's nobody that wants to see our markets get fucked up more than China and Russia. And I'm going to show some stuff here. Like we keep saying it, but if you wanted to make a good argument of who Donald Trump works for, if he's not working for the American people, the best argument you could make is that he's working for China or Russia, because he single-handedly is marching us toward financial collapse. The conditions were there when he came in. we were probably headed there eventually anyways without significant reforms. But it seems like Donald Trump has just accepted that that's going to be a reality, and he's going to make as much cash as he possibly can and get the fuck out before the collapse happens, because it looks like he's ushering us in, and he's bringing in this outside investment, and in every time he brings in investment, he's picking up some for himself. You could make a strong argument there, but let's talk about the market's reaction to the oil. Now, again, this is down now. It's at last we checked, oil's at $92 a barrel. I'd imagine there's going to be some recovery, but these numbers, these oil prices per barrel in oil are going to fluctuate, and you're just going to see a roller coaster until we have some view of when this war in Iran is going to end.
We are keeping an eye on Wall Street as the week begins, and overseas anxieties have people worried.
Yeah, the Dow is plunging, no surprise, after futures fell about 500 points. It's because U.S. oil prices have topped $100 a barrel for the first time since 2022 amid the escalating conflict in the Middle East.
Thank you, Deborah.
Energy prices now raising new fears about something called stagflation. It's a combination of rising inflation and slowing economic growth.
For more on this, we are joined by NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans. Christine, good morning. Thanks for being with us on this breaking news right as the markets open. So a lot to get through here. One, of course, is also just this number here. Oil at about $100 a barrel. Mix that with what we're seeing from the market. Walk us through these indicators this morning.
Yeah, you have a stock market that is clearly rattled by an escalating war in the Middle East, and the big concern is an inflation shock because of dramatically higher energy prices. You talked about that crude oil price topping $100 a barrel overnight. Let me give you the number for reference. Before the U.S. and Israel launched airstrikes in Iran, oil prices were $67 a barrel. So in a matter of just over a week, 10 days now, you've had a dramatic increase in a very core cost for business and governments. So watching oil, a big problem with the oil situation is the Strait of Hormuz is essentially closed. This is something that most of us have never seen in our lifetimes. One ship going through in a period of a week or something. You have no traffic through there. That's a fifth of the world's energy supply. That means the oil producers have filled up all of their storage, and now they're producing less. All of this has knock-on effects, taking it longer and longer to get back online eventually. Again, that's why the stock market is down so much here. Last week was the worst week in the stock market since April. Adding on to those losses this week, oil prices bubbling from 67 to well over $100 a barrel. We'll see if they can start to stabilize here. I'm also watching diesel prices, jet fuel prices. Those are up, both of them dramatically. If you are a trucker or a farmer in the United States, your costs have gone up.
That's a good point. Terry Thunderpants, Americans worrying more about oil than 197 schoolgirls that the U.S. murdered. Suck. I think you meant sick fucks. Yeah. However, I think you can worry about both. Right, that is on the outline. We may not get to it as we're running out of time, and we'll cover it tomorrow. That's kind of how this works. But I think you can be worried about both.
A lot in the last week. If you are looking to buy an airline ticket, the airline CEOs are watching how those higher costs are going to make airline tickets more expensive. So there are just a lot of different ways that what's happening very far away has very material effects on the American pocketbook.
Yeah, you're talking about travel. We know that summer travel is supposed to be up 4%, and people are just starting to think about their airline tickets for that. So we look at two things here. We know inflation is bad. We also know a stagnant economy is bad. You put the two together and you have this thing called stagflation. That's the worry right now, right? Because we're seeing inflationary worries, but we also saw late last week the job market fell.
Yeah, that's important to remember, too, that on top of this right now, we are seeing the dollar being devalued. We are seeing unemployment go up, and we're seeing wages not keep on pace as well. There's no argument. By the way, the only real sticking point Trump had, the only real, I guess not sticking point, the bright spot he had at his State of the Union is that he was bragging about how gas prices were down because of him. Now, I would have argued then, and we did argue then, that he didn't have a lot to do with gas prices. And we make the argument that the president almost never has anything to do with gas prices, unless you go to war with Iran and close the Strait of Hormuz, and then in which case it's almost exclusively your problem. You don't go from 67 a barrel to up to $100 a barrel within a week without something significant. This is him. The rare times that the president has direct control over the price of oil, this is one of those instances. And so now it's like, if he can adjust quickly, probably doesn't hurt him. But if we're still doing this 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, like, I don't know if he'll still be in office. I don't know that he can survive that, which would be fucking terrific. Maybe we could stop bombing every fucking country and trying to lead us into World War III. That'd be pretty cool.
That is the worst word in the economic dictionary, stagflation. It is something we haven't seen very many times.
Is that real? Jamar said 49ers got Mike Evans. Is that real? Thanks, Jamar. Barry said, great show. Thanks, Barry.
And when we've had, it's been very dangerous and difficult to get out of. And that is where you have inflation going up and an economy that is stagnant. We saw last week that the job market was showing some weakness. So you've got some weakening under the hood of the economy. At the same time, you have these prices, these energy prices growing. Mohamed El-Arian, who is a famous economist, was just saying this morning that he thinks that CPI, consumer inflation, for this year could average 3%. We could see maybe as high as 3.5%. That's well above where the Fed wants to be. That means the Fed is sort of handcuffed here. You want to cut interest rates if the job market is faltering, which it appears to be, but you want to raise interest rates if you've got an inflation problem, which seems to be possible as well. So that means that policymakers don't have a lot of wiggle room here.
But at least we're going to have a Fed chairman who will come in and lower rates no matter what, which is pretty cool. It's good to know that Trump is picking somebody to be the Fed chair who will ignore economics and just cut the rates no matter what. You know why he wants to do that? He wants to do that because all of his friends, all these groups we're talking about, are over leveraged. And they need to restructure their debt. And they need to restructure their debt at low rates. That's the dirty little secret that Trump doesn't tell any of you. Is the reason he's obsessed with cutting interest rates is all the people who paid him and gave him billions of dollars on his way to the presidency did so with him promising that he would cut interest rates. So even when economically it doesn't make sense to cut those interest rates, he is choosing a Fed chair who will just do it anyways. And what will that do? It's gonna give people who have collateral access to cheaper money to restructure their debt. And those who don't have collateral, it will leave their debt at the same rate. And if they can't afford their debt at the same rate right now, and they don't have collateral or a good enough credit score to restructure their debt, they will be forced to sell their debt. And if they're underwater, they will sell that debt for pennies on the dollar, and rich people will come and buy up that debt for pennies on the dollar, and they will get richer. I live in Arizona, Florida and Arizona were two of the worst hit places after 2008. And what happened is you had houses like Queen Creek, for example, which is just 30 minutes south of me, was going to be like the new area in Arizona. They were going to build a freeway out there, and all these houses were going up, and people were paying, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for these houses. When the market crashed, those same houses were able to be purchased for legitimate, like this is 2009, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. But if your credit's fucked, if you walked away from your house, you can't take a mortgage. You probably didn't have $40,000 or $50,000, and so you couldn't buy a new house. But who could? Wealthy people, people with collateral, people who already have assets, or people that have liquid capital. So they went in and they bought up all those houses, and they rented them out for a while until the market recovered, and then they sold them and they made a fortune. And that's where we're headed. If Trump lowers interest rates, all it's going to do is give the wealthy more assets. It's going to transfer even more debt. I understand that saying dropping the interest rate sounds good, but there's implications to this. And Trump is, again, working for the 1%, not for you.
There's some concern that maybe other central banks around the world could start raising interest rates to try to get inflation under control. So a lot of different cross currents here that are all kind of a difficult moment. We had talked.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop it. I'll keep playing it.
Talked about how falling gas prices were the good part of the affordability story for so many American families. In fact, the president at his State of the Union had called out energy prices as a sign, that inflation was under control. That has reversed and then some very, very quickly here. Bank of America economists have pointed out that rising prices for a lot of other things, families could tolerate it because the gas prices were falling. But now that is not the case anymore. So we'll watch very carefully to see what this means for consumer spending, what it means for small businesses, and how long this lasts. That's the big question, you guys. At this point, there doesn't seem to be...
All right, we're going to end it there. Sorry, I just... I have a family member who just... they've been traveling, and his girlfriend is... a resident of another country, and I guess they landed at the airport here, and she got taken away and put in a room where they're like searching her phone and her computer, which is cool. America, that's fucking cool. Jesus Christ. All right, I mentioned this before, but this is going to be the talking point going through, and you'll see the bots. They'll catch up tomorrow, and they're all going to say this. But this is now what the Trump administration is stuck with now, as the markets collapse, as the affordability crisis gets even more real. Here's what they're saying now. And again, remember, we still don't know why the fuck we're at war with Iran. We still have no fucking idea why we're at war with Iran. So any pain that we're experiencing because we're at war with Iran is unexplained at this point.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary, short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
Short-term.
Short-term. Short-term. Short-term and long-term.
Short-term blip. Hopefully this is a short-term pain. Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
What's the long-term gain? Where did I get this propaganda clip? From all of the propaganda networks, mostly Fox News. Blue Georgia edited it together. That's crazy that you're calling this a propaganda clip. It's literally showing you propaganda, right-wing propaganda. They just all happen to say the exact same phrasing. They definitely didn't work on that together. They're definitely not managing that behind the scenes. You just watched every Republican speaking from the same script, and you're mad at the person who edited the video? That's pretty on brand for MAGA. We're very upset that you're showing how corrupt this administration is. It makes us very mad. Again, what's the short-term gain? Here's Chris Wright, Energy Secretary. Whoops. What did I just do? Good? Okay. Oops. Yeah, here's Energy Secretary Chris Wright on with Face the Nation. Still waiting for somebody to explain what the gain that we have here. Okay, MAGA in the chat, can you tell me what the gain is by bombing Iran? What are we getting from this? And explain it. Yeah, Democrats do that at the same time. Do that too. The messaging's the same. It's fine. And if you showed me a video of Democrats doing that, you know what I would say? I would say that's really fucking stupid. They're obviously working together. I wouldn't say Republicans do it too. I wouldn't go, that's propaganda. I would just accept that Democrats are also pieces of shit sometimes and that they also do this. And if you were adults, you could just handle this like adults. But instead, you can't handle any criticism of your side of the aisle without going, but what about the Democrats? Just toughen up. Here's Chris Wright. Again, trying to figure out what the long-term gain is here. Axe says, when does it not qualify for short-term pain? That's a good question. Illusion said, you keep talking doomsday. It feels like flirting. You sick fuck.
The U.S. has temporarily suspended some sanctions to make that Russian oil you say was already going to be sold anyway, make it available. But doesn't Russia still financially benefit from that? Why isn't the U.S. seizing those Russian tankers if they are our adversary?
Because right now
we took Venezuela's tankers. Why aren't we taking Russia's tankers? Same rules, right? They're sanctioned. We can take Venezuela's because they're sanctions. Why aren't we taking Russia's tankers? We want to explain that?
Because right now we're worried about Iran and fixing a 47-year problem there, and we're worried about American consumers. We want to stop the rise
Russia
in
was helping
gasoline
Iran.
and diesel prices. Well, there's been rumors of that. We don't know if that's true or not. Certainly, they've gotten a strong.
Yeah, Russia has said they are, and Iran has said that they are, but we're not sure. It's just a rumor. They're probably lying about helping each other. That's probably it.
Wrong message.
These
from
Iranian
us.
drones have Russian parts in them. The Russians
ocean.
have been buying Iranian drones. That is very well documented, and CBS has confirmed and reported that there was sharing of intelligence, Russia providing intel to target Americans. So how is Russia not part of this?
Look, Russia's expert at causing trouble around the world, so I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying.
So why don't we seize their sanctioned oil? Maggie, you want to explain that? Why we're not seizing their sanctioned oil?
If they're helping Iran, it's not working very well. But we're not helping Russia by just accelerating the sale of their oil to.
Yeah, we are. So we basically, not one, we don't seize it, and two, we're allowing. So we do help Russia. In what scenario would you making it easier for somebody to sell their product not be benefiting them? How's that? In what scenario is that not helping Russia? It's easier for them to sell their oil. What happens when you sell your oil? You get money. What do you do with that money? Fund whatever you want to fund. What are you funding? A war in Ukraine and a war in Iran. What's the scenario where this isn't benefiting Russia?
Stop the rise of energy prices and keep European and Asian refineries in oil. We're just doing pragmatic things to get through a short period that'll bring in an era of even lower energy prices, because a major energy producing region of the world, the Middle East, will no longer have a strong, powerful Iran that can threaten their neighbors.
Draco's Rose, yes, I did add that to the goal. Thank you.
That can threaten the United States of America and was not far away from a nuclear bomb. That's an unacceptable scenario. That's the risk to energy prices.
So
was not doing anything.
So when the Qatari.
All right, let's try again. Let's try Mike Waltz. Let's see if Mike Waltz can have a better answer here. I mean, Republican, do you think you'll ever just accept that you're being lied to and at some point get tired of it? This is obvious. Of course, this helps Russia.
Minute left. The Treasury Department announced it was easing
International waters. It was in international waters when we took it from Venezuela too. So, what's the difference? Pat, you're rough, bud. You're here every day calling me stupid, and then I occasionally see your comments. It's like, oh, little pot calling the kettle black there.
oil sanctions on Russia, which will help Russia fund its war in Ukraine, as you know. Why is the Trump administration helping Russia in this moment?
Oh, I wouldn't characterize it that way. I have to push back on that premise.
Oh. How else could you characterize easing oil sanctions?
It's a 30-day pause to allow, which is just kind of common sense, to allow the millions and millions of barrels of oil that are sitting out on ships to go to Indian refineries. I just laid out the tough.
Yeah, so helping them though, right? Like you're just explaining the details of it, but what he said, I'm pushing back on that's helping them. It's not helping them. It's just allowing the oil to move and get refined so they can sell it. Oh, that's not help though. Guys, that's not help.
Actions the Trump administration has taken to reduce their revenue. But at the end of the day, Kirsten, this is going to be a temporary issue. This is going to be, looks like a bit of short-term pain for the long-term gain
there it is.
Of Iran no longer being able to hold the world's energy supplies hostage. We have taken out that capability, but it also speaks to why President Trump's energy agenda has been so important. calls it.
We're not talking about geopolitics. We're talking about whether or not it is helpful to Russia to allow their oil to be transferred to a refinery. It's not, you don't have to have knowledge about geopolitics, which I do, but we're talking about, is it helpful or not? Of course it's helpful. But the Trump administration is not allowed to say that. They just have to lie all the time. Of course it's helpful. There's no scenario where this isn't helpful. And even you saying like, oh, you don't understand the intricacies of geopolitics. If you were responding to me, like, even that doesn't make sense, because even if I understood the intricacies of geopolitics, this is still helpful to Russia. So just say that. You don't get to change what he's saying. He could say that. You could say, oh, well, it's the intricacies of geopolitics. Of course it's helping Russia, but in the long term, something, right? Of course it's helping Russia, but it's not our focus. Something. But he said it's not helping them. That's of course not true. Of course it's helping them.
Drill, baby, drill. This is unleashing American oil and gas. We now have it coming in from Venezuela. We have other diversified supplies for both our European and our Asian allies. At the end of the day, the world will be safer, stronger, and more prosperous because President Trump has taken this action, and our Gulf allies.
Okay, but it still helps Russia. Even I don't agree with you, but it still helps Russia. And the question you were asked is, does this help Russia?
I got to tell you, here at the UN are outraged and are going to take both
Thank you, Barbara.
military
Love you too.
and diplomatic action in the coming days and weeks. This whole strategy of Iran shooting in all direction at their neighbors and at our allies is absolutely backfiring on them.
Yeah, and just to button it, I mean, Russia.
It's backfiring on them by letting Russia move their oil and refine it. You guys want to explain that? Again, the question was about moving Russian oil to refineries and whether or not that helps Russia. He just said firing on their neighbors is backfiring, but not on Russia, right? Like, it seems like it's not doing anything to Russia. Well, look, good question. Beavis, ask them. Because if you ask Mike Walls if Russia is an enemy to the United States, he would say yes. I know you're making that argument. Russia, absolutely. Like, we say that we're bombing Iran because they chant death to America. Russia is on the record that they want to destroy America by pitting us against each other. It's been an active mission of ever since, since the Cold War, but Putin has actively been working behind the scenes. He's on the record saying that that's what he wants to do. So I guess, like, if you don't think that destroying us internally with infighting makes you an enemy and destroying our place as a world power, if you don't call that an enemy to our country, that's fine. You can call it something else. But I would say that's an enemy to our country. If you want to use a lighter term, that's fine. But everybody in this administration, everybody in national security says it's Russia. Are you making this weird argument that they're not making? It's fine. If you hold that opinion, that's fine. But it's not his opinion. It's not this administration's opinion, at least not publicly. Maybe behind the scenes, Trump doesn't seem to view them as a enemy, but he says that they are. So is that what you do? You're just doing what you think they're saying behind the scenes?
Will be getting that money as it wages this war in Ukraine. But let me just ask you this critical final question. More than 170
They're no longer getting drones, or no longer getting ballistic missiles.
All right.
And at the end of the day,
all right. So the gain is what? Yeah, thank you for bringing us back to that. What's the gain? Short-term pain, which is the increase right now, not only in the price of gas. Obviously, we have a very volatile stock market. Big drop today, followed by a recovery. I think we're up like 0.3% now, the last I checked. Cost of goods will be increasing. Airlines will be increasing. Obviously, billions of dollars a day spent on this war, which is just going to add to inflation. What is the long-term gain? Had a hard-on for the Russian-Ukraine war? Is that what you're saying? I did? forgot about that. I guess I missed that. I missed that part when I was like, fuck yeah, Russia-Ukraine war. I'm pretty sure that I've advocated that we could stop that war at any point. We could literally just say, we could just go there and say, Russia, if you don't leave, we will nuke you or we will fight against you. And then Russia would withdraw. But I would rather not be funding the war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, our foreign policy seems like we're a bunch of pussies when it comes to Russia. We only go after the smaller one. We go Venezuela and decapitate their leadership. We'll go after Iran. Seems like we're maybe afraid of Russia. Buddy, you're lost. Still worried about Trump when they are assaulting and eating kids? Who is assaulting and eating kids? You're a lost soul. Find Jesus. Enjoy the 5 brokey. I will enjoy the 5. Jesus, I don't believe is real. Who the fuck is assaulting and eating kids? I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe send another 5 and tell me who they're assaulting and eating. Are you talking about the Epstein files? That's crazy. Thank you though for contributing to our gift goal. All right. Let's show some more obvious corruption here from this president. It's interesting when Donald Trump likes a dictator, he really bows down. Now this is Erdogan here, and Erdogan, who doesn't speak English, has a translator right here. And this was in September of this last year. Came and part of the discussion was about the F-35 and F-16 sales potentially to Turkey. And then he mentions a bank here at the end. And this is important. I missed it at the time, but now in hindsight, this is important.
Said we have an opportunity here today to be able to discuss some of the issues regarding the F-35, the F-16, and also the Halkbank case, and we will have an opportunity to thoroughly discuss them. And based on what you have mentioned regarding the Heybeliada school, we are ready to do whatever we can that falls on our part, and I will, when I get back, try to discuss this issue with the esteemed Mr. Bartholomos to discuss how we can move forward on that.
Okay, so if you missed it there, he said that I believe we'll have the opportunity to discuss in detail today the issues concerning the F-35 and F-16 and our relations with Halkbank. And now we have this. Is the right one? This was from August of last year, before Erdogan showed up. U.S. Supreme Court clears path for Halkbank prosecution over Iran's sanctions schemes. Now, we're at war with Iran. We're not going to go after Russia for helping Iran. What did Halkbank do? Charges. U.S. prosecutors allege that Halkbank participated in a multi-billion-dollar scheme to move $20 billion in restricted Iranian oil revenue through the global financial system. The scheme involved converting oil revenue into gold and cash, falsifying records of food shipments, and using front companies. Halkbank claimed immunity under both the Foreign Service Immunities Act and common law sovereignty immunity, arguing that a state-owned entity should not be subject to prosecution in U.S. courts. The Supreme Court ruled that FSIA, which is the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act, does not apply to criminal cases, remanding the case to the Second Circuit to consider common law immunity. Then the Second Circuit ruled that common law does not shield Halkbank from prosecution, especially for commercial activities. The court emphasized that deference must be given to the executive branch's determination on immunity. Then back to October of 2025, after he showed up, the Supreme Court declined to hear Halkbank's latest appeal, effectively allowing the criminal case to proceed. Turkey then has reportedly proposed a $100 million settlement to resolve the case without Halkbank admitting guilt. This was discussed during a White House meeting that we just showed you. And what do we have today? I forgot to get the link. Want to guess what happened today? While I pull this up, anybody want to guess? DOJ says deal reached to end case against Turkey's Halkbank. Not a bailout. Just going to ban it. Justice Department said a deal has been reached to resolve a long-running U.S. criminal case against Turkish state-owned lender Turkey Halk Bankası AS over alleged Iran sanctions violations. A deferred prosecution agreement between the U.S. and Halkbank was filed in Manhattan federal court on Monday. Such agreements typically allow prosecutors to pause a criminal case with the intention of dismissing it later if certain conditions are met. The U.S. District Judge Richard Berman would have to approve the deal, which requires Halkbank to hire an anti-money laundering expert, review its compliance with the U.S. sanctions. The judge is holding a hearing on Wednesday to discuss the agreement. Halkbank said that it will not be admitting to criminal wrongdoing and will not be paying judicial or administrative fines as a result of the agreement. We're not going to pay anything, and we won't admit that we broke the law. They were just laundering money, Iranian money, under sanctions. In Venezuela, that gets your leader kidnapped. That gets your oil tankers seized. That leaves you with 80 dead. But if you're friendly to Donald Trump, don't worry. Pam Bondi will hook you up. No, don't have to pay anything, and you don't have to admit that you were guilty. This development is expected to positively impact our bank's financial structure thanks to the expansion of our bank's access to overseas resources, correspondent banking network, and international markets. Halkbank shares then went up 10% at market close in Istanbul. Cool. So we're not going to fuck with Russia when they fund Iran. Obviously not doing anything to China. Not going to do anything to Turkey. But Venezuela, you motherfuckers. You motherfucking Venezuelans who are selling oil to Iran. We will come in and kidnap your leader. We will call you all communists. We will steal your oil tankers. What's going on? Why are we doing that? Did Turkey recently put a few million into Trump's cryptocurrency account? I tried to figure that out this morning. I don't know. I'm going to look. The way that they hide it, it's really hard to track with crypto, and I'm not good at tracking wallets, so I'm going to probably have to rely on somebody else's reporting on that. I don't know if anybody knows, but seems like Iran is like such a big problem, unless it's people that Trump likes that are helping them, and then it's just no big deal. About 15 more minutes, then we'll get out of here. I want to show this. Let's get into Iran. Now, remember, one of the scary things about Iran, and that we want to avoid here, is Sharia law. Because in America, we believe in religious liberty. Despite the fact that Utah today, I heard this on Facts Live. Actually, I hadn't seen it until I saw Facts Live. Utah is trying to put the word of wisdom, which is like the Mormon code of conduct, or I guess dietary restrictions: no alcohol, no coffee, meat in moderation, fruits only seasonally. They're trying to put that into law. No coffee, no tea. They're trying to make that the law in Utah. At least one person is, which is the exact same thing as Sharia law, right? Forcing your religious doctrine. And now, while we're in Iran, consistently lying about how oppressive Iran is, which Iran is very oppressive, and the Ayatollah is not a good person, was not a good person, and obviously the rights of women are not very respected in Iran. But you can be a practicing Christian in Iran. There's practicing open Christians in Iran. Meanwhile, two of Benjamin Netanyahu's buddies in Israel are part of the Knesset, are now advocating a new law in Israel. So while we're worried about religious freedom and oppressive regimes, here's what Netanyahu's buddies are doing in Israel.
Conservative Christian leaders are calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop a bill proposed by members of his coalition to make it criminal to tell people about Jesus in Israel. Our Jerusalem correspondent.
Whoa! If this was Iran, every MAGA would be like, nuke them now. This is Israel.
Daniel Cohen is live near Tel Aviv with more. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Allison. Good morning, everyone. A big story just before, days before Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter. Sacred time for Christians. Two ultra-Orthodox members of Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition have introduced a bill that would punish believers for sharing the gospel of Jesus with prison time. What's that? Judeo-Christian values?
I've been saying it for a while. Like, I don't understand what the fuck Judeo-Christian values are. They're two different religions. The crux of like Christianity is the New Testament. That's what separates them from not only Judaism, but also from Islam. That Christianity is Jesus is the savior. Judaism is no, he's not. Islam is a good guy, but just a prophet. What are these shared values? What are these Judeo-Christian values? This is what links us to Israel. Don't say J-Law. I can't say J-Law.
Torah Judaism Knesset members Moshe Gafni and Yaakov Asher introduced legislation last week making it illegal to share in conversation or produce content online, in print, or by mail. Their explanation of the bill emphasizes a warning to stop Christians in particular. The punishment, 1 year in prison or 2 years for sharing with someone under the age of 18. Joel Rosenberg is the host of the Rosenberg Report and editor-in-chief of All Israel News. He's also
Thanks, Alter Ego, for the gifted subs there. Appreciate that.
A Jewish follower of Jesus.
Obviously, Jewish people don't agree with Christians, evangelicals or others, about who Jesus is, right? We all know that there's a theological difference, but evangelical Christians and
then what are Judeo-Christian values? Then help me out with that, because if we're all linking our values back to the Old Testament, then why aren't we including Muslims as well?
other Christians have been so supportive of Israel and the Jewish people. So to silence, to muzzle, and gag even Israelis like myself and others to say, you can't talk to another person about your faith and why you believe it, that is terrible. That is not freedom.
Although he doesn't agree theologically, Netanyahu has always been a strong friend of evangelicals, speaking at meetings and believing freedom of speech and freedom for Israel's small Christian community should be protected. Now, should this bill gain traction, it could spark a serious clash with the 60 million evangelicals in the United States and 600 million around the world. Gafni first introduced a ban on...
Wait, but Blas, the Ten Commandments, Muslims also believe in the Ten Commandments. How come you guys don't ever, how come it's not Judeo-Christian Muslim values? What do you think the difference is? Should we take some guesses? I wonder what the difference might be. What might it be? What's the difference between the things that you guys are afraid of with Sharia law and what Andrew Wilson espouses? I saw his wife was a guest on Joe Rogan. And I saw this segment. She's like, actually, the real problem in this country is we allowed women to start working, and that's what fucked everything up. It's like, Jesus Christ, lady, get it together. Yeah, it couldn't be skin color, could it? It couldn't be skin color. That can't be it. Boz, you said what Judeo-Christian values are the Ten Commandments, but Muslims believe in the Ten Commandments too. So, do you have a different answer of what these shared Judeo-Christian values are that can't be shared across with Muslims as well? Why was she out of the kitchen? That's a good question. Somebody's got to ask Andrew why he allowed her out of the kitchen. That's a good point. I know he's not allowing her to vote.
Evangelism in 1999, it went nowhere. United Torah Judaism is in a stronger negotiating position now, though, since Netanyahu needs to keep the party in his coalition.
Define kitchen. Gonna give me PTSD.
Or it could threaten Netanyahu's ability to remain in power. Allison, back to you.
Daniel Cohen, thank you so much.
All right. If that was Iran, Fox News would run 30 minutes on that. But since it's Israel, it's not going to make its way onto Fox News. We're not going to see any of that. Let's finish out with two more stories. First, a point here. Benjamin Netanyahu has been lying to American presidents forever and trying to bait them into bombing Iran for as long as he's been around. And every president before Donald Trump wasn't a fucking dipshit, but it seems like now Israel found their man. Did I say Iran? Israel has found their man. And here's Anthony Blinken explaining just exactly how Israel tried to get Obama to bomb Iran. And see if this sounds familiar to you.
The October 7th attack on Israel, the horrific attack on Israel by Hamas. The Israelis were insisting that in the north, Hezbollah from Lebanon was about to attack. And they wanted to strike preemptively against Hezbollah. And President Biden said, look, we're with you. We'll always be with you in defending Israel. And if you're attacked, we're there. But we're not there if you're going to start something. And we came within about 30 minutes of having a war in the north based on bad information that the Israelis had about an imminent attack from Hezbollah. We were able to avert that. But Biden was very insistent. We're not going to do something that you initiate, that you start. It's very different than defending Israel when it's been attacked. The October 7th.
And when you listen to Trump, there's like, yeah, they just told us it was coming. He's the dumbest one. The dumbest one. He's the only one that fell for it. He went for it. And then we'll end on this. Whoever it was, who was that messaged earlier about protecting children? Who was that? That was Dat Dude. Still worried about Trump when they're assaulting and eating kids? Well, let's talk about kids. Let's talk about how Americans treat kids.
With Iran has been underway. The deadliest incident of civilian casualties was a strike that happened on an elementary school in southern Iran that killed scores of children. Tonight, a CNN analysis of that attack reveals evidence suggesting that the United States military was likely responsible for it. What you're about to see is disturbing. I want to warn you. The United States says it's still under investigation, but this was the scene at the school just after the strikes 1 week ago nearly. CNN has not independently confirmed the death toll, but Iranian health officials and state media believe that at least 168 children and 14 teachers were killed. Our analysis.
Is that dude? We worried about kids still?
Which is based on satellite imagery, geolocated videos, and the assessment of munitions experts, suggests that the school was hit around the same.
Well, keep watching. Alpha male said, "You're ignorant. Iran bombed the school. You're a bitch who just believes Donald Trump when he says dumb shit. There's no intelligence to back that up." In fact, Pete Hegseth doesn't agree with Donald Trump. Nobody thinks Iran bombed that school. Nobody except for Donald Trump, because he's a lying fuck, and you are a dumb fuck.
Same time that an attack that American forces had launched on a neighboring Iranian naval base. This new satellite image shows several Revolutionary Guard buildings near the all-girls school. You can see how close they are. In red, you can see the craters at the center of the structures, including the school, and what experts say look like precision strikes.
So we bombed all through here, but Iran bombed the school. Is that what you're saying? That's what we think happened? What were they shooting at? What was Iran shooting at?
A wall, marked by that dotted line there, is all that separates the school and this base. When asked about the strike this week under multiple times during multiple different press briefings, this is what Trump administration officials have told reporters.
Once again, please do not misunderstand what we're saying here. Criticizing the United States for their actions in no way absolves Iran of their actions. In no way does it absolve Iran's actions against their own people. In no way does it absolve Iran's like crimes. It doesn't absolve them for the way that they treat women. Doesn't absolve them from anything that they've done. However, the teachers and the girls that went to school there didn't do anything wrong. I believe, unlike MAGA, in criticizing our own government, regardless of who is in office. I am not going to cheerlead bombing a school. There's some evidence, unconfirmed, that it was a double tap, which I don't know. I don't think that's been confirmed. I wouldn't even say that it is, that it did happen unless somebody has some information I don't have. But how bad is our intelligence when 168 girls are in school, that are at school? We didn't know it was a school.
Did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter.
Oh, it's war now, George? Uh-oh. Well, take that up with this administration. The Republicans said it's not war. Because if it's war, they need Congress. Uh-oh. Ugh. Might want to change your words.
And I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively. And unfortunately, many people in this room have fallen for that propaganda.
Can you give us what was the problem? They just asked if they bombed the school. That's not propaganda. That's called a question.
It's an update on what the administration knows, what you know now about the reported strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on Saturday.
All I can say is that we're investigating that. We, of course, never target civilian targets, but we're taking a look and investigating that.
We do. This guy killed some fishermen off the coast of Venezuela. At least one of those boats was fishermen. So sometimes we do.
Now, the internet blackout in Iran has made it very difficult for our teams to examine weapons fragments that are left at the scene for further evidence of responsibility. Reuters reports, though, that U.S. military investigators also believe it is likely U.S. forces were behind that strike.
Now, here's the quote that they're talking about where Trump says it was Iran. And even Pete Hegseth, Pete Hegseth has no problem licking the boots. But even here, unwilling to defend Donald Trump's statement.
Mr. President, did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that? We're certainly investigating.
We're investigating. Yeah, he's not putting his name next to that.
The only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done.
Iran basically admitted it was their rocket. No, they didn't. You made that up.
By Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions.
How inaccurate? So inaccurate that they missed the other country they were shooting at and accidentally hit their own country 100 yards away from where you were bombing at that exact time. That's what happened. That's what Donald Trump wants you to believe, that Iranian missiles are so inaccurate that they tried to shoot it over the water, and instead they missed, and it landed 100 yards from exactly where the United States was bombing. For sure, that's what happened.
They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Yeah. Again, Pete Hegseth not going to back that up, and here's Pete Hegseth again, clearly not backing that up. There's only one person who's saying this, and it's Donald Trump, and he's doing it just out of his ass. Evidence that fishermen were killed. Some of them got away, and they made it back home safely, and they were fishermen. When we find out that it was the United States, they're just going to say the same thing, that we don't target civilians. We just... I'm glad I was there. Yeah. Well, look, the thing is you're doing this thing. Like, you guys are accepting what Donald Trump says. And then when somebody doesn't accept what Donald Trump says, and we just go based on the evidence, and the evidence, like, it seems silly, right, that Iran would bomb their own school, then you get mad at me. All right. I think that's where we'll stop today. We're about 20 minutes over. Okay, Jen, did I miss anything?
I'm looking. Just reminding everybody, if you're not in the Discord already, you'll want to be there for our movie night. And then, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. We'll see you guys tonight in those of you that make it in about 4.5 hours. Until if you're not making it to movie night tomorrow, we'll be back tomorrow morning and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. to 1 Pacific Standard Time, right here wherever you're watching. Keep in mind, we do have paid memberships on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. That's how you can join us for tonight's movie night, members-only events, and future movie nights as well. Any membership level gets you into those events. A reminder, there's merch in our bio. We have our healthcare hoodies. I'm washing it now, so hopefully I have it on tomorrow. Other than that, if you want to engage with our content, that helps a great deal. Make sure if you're here right now and you want to come back, check real quick wherever you are and subscribe. It's free to do so. Turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. We put up shorts. These videos are always available on replay on both Twitch and YouTube. So if you're watching the replay right now, go ahead and drop a comment and a like. Just let us know where you are, anything that you like or dislike about the show. And for all the trolls, great news. We miss all your comments here. You can go talk shit in our comment section because the replays are available. So if you want to get your point across, great. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. If you're feeling bad, go outside and touch grass. If you can't touch grass, smoke grass. If you can't smoke grass, find a cool hobby that makes you feel better. Be nice to each other, those around you, but most importantly, be nice to yourself. Drink lots and lots of water and get those boots on the ground. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Stay cute and cool, and have a great summer.